All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Gavel. I'm gonna use my hand. I don't need it. Oh, I'm gonna call a town council work session to order for 02/22/2022.
Tuesday.
And we'll start. We already had a joint work session with the BOCC at their house, and we go to planning commission decisions. Anyone have any questions today? About that you're allowed to talk about. All right, no call-ups for the evening. Perfect. Legislative exterior food and beverage, second reading.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. This evening, you've got the exterior food and beverage second reading. The only change since the first reading was after much internal discussion, it has been simplified to remove the 200 square foot exemption that was in the first reading. Would be no exemption.
I think that's much cleaner.
Bill, and thank you for your patience on that.
No,
one.
thank you.
Any other questions?
We had a few conversations on that.
I'm good.
Jeffrey, good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Thanks.
Hey, Jeffrey, if you have anything to say today, just pipe up. I'm going to keep forgetting that you're out there. So if you need anything, just holler.
All right.
Don't scream, holler.
Try to think of me occasionally, though.
I just get scared every time I look up there and you're looking down at me like that. We have Watson right-of-way donation. I think it's funny to call it a donation, but
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Town Council.
James?
This ordinance that's before you this evening is the second reading. This is authorizes the town manager for the conveyance of property, real property for the Watson Avenue Roundabout project. I'm here to take any questions. There were no changes from the reading.
I did that.
Questions? None. Nope. Good.
No.
James, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have Water District Parcel Land Use District Amendment Assignment Ordinance. Hi.
Oh, Sarah prepared a memo for the packet. The first ordinance that we're talking about is it's a first reading to place the Water District parcel, which is that small parcel that we just annexed off of Highway 9 adjacent to the McCain property. Want to place that in Land Use District 43. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission and they recommended that land use. Land Use District 43 for this particular area identifies it as open space buffer to the highway. So yeah, that's for. Any
So,
questions?
no, but I do have a comment about this and the next one.
Okay.
And I talked to Truckee about this earlier. I think rather than take Land Use District 4 and move it into 43, we think we should be doing the opposite and running Land Use District 4 in its traditional alignment. So it joins Land Use District 4 both to the north and the south of it.
So change the recommendation to Land Use District 4.
Yes.
Well,
I think the whole strip should be traditionally Land Use District 4.
does everybody understand what 4 is?
I will add that this parcel is no longer a parcel. It's part of the entire tract A1 of McCain.
I understand that. I think we should change McCain. Somehow we turned that whole parcel of McCain, we got rid of Land Use District 4, which traditionally runs next to the highway. That does not exist on our property, but exists everywhere else. I would like to do this the other way around and create the buffer of Land Use District 4 on our property, like it should be.
You know, I think we can do that. It actually will have a parcel of land that has 2 different land use districts in it. And that we can deal with. We'll just have a parcel that's 2 districts in it. Particularly, then we'll have to come in and sort of rezone our McCain parcel.
Correct.
To put that land use district 4 there.
Correct.
And that District 4 is just a buffer
It's
with
just
the
buffer.
highway?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that would be the entire, what is it,
So
15
if you-
acres or so
if
of
you-
open space on McCain would go into for?
Oh.
If you pull up the map and you look at the strip that runs along the dotted line
You pull up on
that is to the right side of the page. See the dotted line on 43? Land use district 4 should actually run the entire length of that. That's how it was originally. I don't know at what point
So would you,
So
would it just be a strip then?
it would be a strip. It's a 150-foot
The
strip.
length of it?
It's
of
150 feet, right, Mark?
Be similar to this, right?
Yeah, it'd be similar to land use district 4 that's to the north and land use district 4 that's to the south.
So
Go
you're
all the way
talking
up.
about this area right
Yeah,
here?
this should run all the way. It
Okay,
should
so
just be a
he's saying
continuous
this area right
land use
here?
district 4.
This is district, land use district
So
4?
does Buffer preclude all
gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
development
does.
and it's just,
It's just buffer, but we have
Vegetation.
made every other person that has developed along this stretch of land adhere to
Maintain that.
land use district 4. And it was a really big deal. And actually, when we got the old fire district parcel, originally, one of the big deals was getting that parcel to remove their crappy little house that was there because it belonged in land use district 4 and it shouldn't have been there. I mean, it was there historically, but it should have gone away, which it did. So,
So then are you saying that 33S should also be land use district?
yeah, what is 33S in the county? Yeah, so we have
So
no
we can't
control
do
over
anything
that.
about that, okay.
Is still there. The 150-foot land use district
Oh,
for
I
buffer is
see.
still there. That's
And then
that
what
green.
about here?
Well, it really just runs to, I mean, there's 4 right there. So we would run it all the way on our property.
Through 43?
Mhm.
Yeah.
there? Okay.
Sorry.
The question for everybody is if you support what Eric's suggesting and that we basically redo this and create this land use district 4 all the way down, there's no reason to act upon either this ordinance or the next one. And I would suggest we pull those off the agenda.
impact like James's snow storage and the
No, he wouldn't have been storing in that area anyways. I don't
have
think.
with that
Landscape.
landscaper, does that
I
affect
don't
any of
think
those?
so.
Well, the permitted uses in land use district 43 say there will be a buffer 150 foot along the highway. So that buffer is included within land use district 43's regulations. So there shouldn't be anything within that land use district 43 section.
So we're just.
Yeah. The only issue is we are obligated to place that recently zoned or recently annexed property into a land use district within 90 days of the annexation. We just annexed it and there's an obligation that we put it in a land use district within 90 days. So I don't know if we can defer this until we do the entire strip or if we should just move forward with the recently annexed water district parcel, get it in a land use district, so it's in something, so we meet state statute. Then we can come through and create a big long.
Does Mark have some insight?
Thank you.
Yeah, so land use district 43, like Lori said, it accomplishes largely the same thing, but land use district 4 was absolutely what Eric's saying in terms of trying to just maintain that buffer there. The one thing is there probably are some of the service commercial uses within that area right now. We just need to recognize that the 2V's landscaping and that are already within there, but I don't think we're going to kick them out because of that. But obviously for anything new, we would maintain that setback there. And so some of that snow storage may be in that area as well. And I also believe that the existing lugs are 4 right now for those 2 parcels.
Okay.
So actually, we don't even have to change those. We need to change McCain,
Yes.
the rest of it. Yeah.
So
So
I
we
guess
have
I'd
to
like to
place
know
it
what
in
impacts
the
to
land
snow
use
would be.
district still. I mean, so we have to place it in land use district 4. And we'd be compliant with the state statute.
Yeah, that's right. There is a requirement to do that in 90 days. I'm not clear when that clock runs out, but if it'd be best to do that.
So if we change these 2 ordinances to recommend land use district buffer
43.
district as opposed to 43, we'd be legit for tonight if we wanted to move forward.
Is everybody okay with this?
So
My
Just-
worry is always going forward. What happens if we don't do much on McCain? We end up selling it.
Zone it.
I just want to make
Doesn't
sure that we're
Be in this.
But just
consistent.
to be clear, will this impact snow storage or won't it, or do we not know, or we're okay with that?
It shouldn't, because snow storage doesn't really count as building.
Okay, so then I'm fine.
So I guess I would recommend we move forward with the ordinances to place it in the land use district 4 instead of 43. And then it will be actually in 4.
And then
We'll deal with the balance of the McCain property, rezoning that from 43 to 4.
Can we have a new draft by tonight just to change that land use?
I can
Right.
get that done.
Well,
I can handle that one, I think.
Awesome.
3
Right there. You go.
Yeah.
Well, you can handle it.
lawyer stuff.
You got some white out.
Take
The lawyer's
3.
All right, and then the same for the old fire station parcel.
Put them both in 4.
All right, thank you. everyone.
Yeah, you actually just place them in the land district that's shown on the map. It's a placing in them in 4 as opposed to rezoning. No.
Frisco IGA for childcare tuition assistance program. These are super addictive, so you need
I
to eat some.
I tried some of those and I was like, I can't get into those.
They're
Like
sweet,
both.
sweet and salty.
Yes. It's a nightmare.
Whose idea was this?
It's out of control.
Hi,
How are you?
how are you?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this is the IGA for, from the town of Frisco to work with town of Breckenridge for the Child Care Tuition Assistance Program. The main parts of the IGA are listed in the memo. We do expect to have a slight change with a couple of items in the IGA before the final would be approved and signed. And so the recommendation is to approve it with a condition that allows the town manager and town attorney to finalize it.
Questions?
I had one question, and I feel like this was a previous discussion from the advisory
Mhm.
committee. Were we gonna change the parameters from live or work to just work?
For Frisco or for
For-
everybody?
Everybody.
No, it will remain live or work
Okay,
in both situations for Breckenridge and Frisco. So obviously Frisco is 10-mile basin.
I,
thank you.
I had a question. I kind of just, what's the purpose of this? Is this just to help establish our program in Frisco as well? Or is this because they don't have enough time and personnel and they need our assistance?
It's honestly both of those, Kelly. Town of Frisco was looking to establish a tuition assistance program very similar. And we had several conversations with them about how they could do that with using quite a bit of the Breckenridge program. After that, they lost some staff, and we felt that it was the kind of the right thing to be able to work together on the program because they did want to keep it exactly the same. And so we offered that as a solution. There's also a lot of conversation about this possibility of countywide tuition assistance. So we felt like it was one step closer to that, to have both basins working on the same program as we move to hopefully a larger program across the county.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I'm really psyched that we can get our program expanded. And I think that we're doing a lot of things right. And like, why have them make the same mistakes? But I also just know how busy you guys are. So I hope that it has been discussed that at a staff level, this is probably not a long-term solution, and that as they are able to fill the position, that you guys wouldn't be relied on to spend time on Frisco's stuff.
Correct. That is the long-term goal. And if the county program didn't happen or was pushed substantially further, then we would talk about that. This is reviewed on an annual basis.
Great.
And we did estimate time, number of applications, things
Well, I
like
saw
that.
that, but I mean, that sounds like a lot of time is when I,
It does. I understand that, but since we're using the same exact application,
the same review process, everything that we're already doing. And obviously we've added Austin to the mix. And so we felt like, and the timing is very good for us because we'd start March 1st, which gives us a couple months before we move into opening the Breckenridge program back up to open enrollment for this next school year.
Yeah, the managers have talked, and we really try to set a goal of saying, if we're committed to this, making a countywide program, what we're doing, why not do it within a year? So we'll see where it goes.
This might be a stupid question. Is this replacing a current program or is this a brand new program?
It's brand new. For
So they
Vista.
haven't offered tuition
No.
assistance before.
No, and they approved it through council. They have the funds to do it. And they were willing to try to do it quickly. So hence the March 1st start.
Okay. So theoretically, okay. I definitely support this because I feel like this could be helping to move kids around too. Yeah, that's great.
Well,
Create some
everybody's
equity.
full, so nobody's gonna move.
Yeah, so
just
it's
to be
not like
clear.
adding more, but maybe
Nobody's
it's
gonna move.
sharing the load a little bit, even if we're getting them started. Yeah.
Create a lot of equity between the north and south of the county is starting to go that direction. And that's really what we're trying to do with the county program. So
Yeah.
that all families have access to some kind of assistance for childcare.
Yeah. But I do respect and appreciate the fact that
I
we
do
ask
too.
a lot of staff. Yeah.
Other questions? All right. Thank you. We have the 2021 budget appropriations with the 2022 rollover appropriations resolution and public hearing.
We didn't.
Don't have any financial people, so.
Yeah, Rick and I, we realized we
We just
didn't
looked
talk
at each other
about
and said, "Are
who
you
was
telling
doing
them?"
it. So I guess I'll start by saying, this is obviously something that we do every year. It's a requirement for expenses and revenue that we did not originally adopt in the budget for the previous year. So in this case for 2021. So what you have before you is a memo that Mendy put together on our behalf that shows the different expenses and revenue amounts that were outside of the budget for this past year. And we can answer questions if you have them. I think she did a really good job of making it as straightforward as she could, as you probably, some of you recall from previous years. The way that accounting works sometimes makes it look confusing where you have money in and money out and it all it makes it look a little odd, but I think she did a really good job of trying to detail out what those different items and different line items are. So we're happy to answer any questions.
So the marketing line item, that's a reduction that's now gone. That's the amount that we approved to stop putting into marketing and start putting into childcare. Is that right? Just a little bit. I
Where
was a
is
little
it?
bit confused about how it's
What are you talking about, Kelly?
It's that.
Line 4.
Line 4.
Okay.
line 4, and then
And
I
16.
think that it's 16, which is where the numbers don't quite match up, but and one says reduce and one says increase.
Remember, we always did that voluntary half
Yeah,
percent.
yeah. So that's what that is.
Yes.
And what
So
does,
I just wanted to be clear because I know that a lot of people are questioning like marketing funds, and it looks to me like, I guess it's just important to know that that's a reduction to them.
Yes.
Okay.
what does TFR stand for?
Transfer.
Like STR, but different.
I'll need to get clarity on that. It could also be just, a certain number of dollars are required to go to the marketing fund.
Yeah.
And if lodging dollars are up a lot, like we know they were,
Uh-huh.
it could be a supplemental revenues. That's showing, that's a revenue line.
Yeah, that's why it's confusing, but it says reduce transfer amount in the notes. And I guess that's why I'm a little bit
All right.
thrown.
Then that's probably
Remember that
what it is
conversation, too.
in the note. I didn't.
Do or
yeah.
don't?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah, because we did say,
Back off.
Oh, no.
remember we went in there during the budget
yeah.
when we'd already, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The handshake
I think we're, yeah.
deal is done.
If it's not,
It's
we'll let
already
you
in
know.
the account, so you can't take it
Yeah.
back. Corey and I made sure of that immediately.
Other questions? Best financial presentation we've ever had, by the way.
Like rap or anything. And so.
Yeah, well, you see where that
Missed
gets you.
the picture.
Jokes. I do. They were good jokes.
All right, we have the the Mountain Metropolitan District.
Mayor, Council, there's a memo in your agenda tonight. This will be in legislative matters. You will need to take action. As we've discussed previously, this is a notice of intent from the Breckenridge Mountain Metropolitan District of their desire to create a sub-district. Under state law, that isn't a material modification from what the town council approved in 2002. So it's my recommendation that you, don't need a formal resolution and public hearing tonight, and we'll just make a determination that it does not qualify for that. If there's any questions, let me know. I think you had some follow-up questions that I responded to in the memo.
Yeah, thanks for the time on that. And after reading it, you and I talked about a few things. The only piece that's hanging is a credible map.
Yes.
Is a legible map that matches what we think we're reading here. And I feel like we need to have some kind of teeth somehow, somewhere to make sure we get that map in a timely manner.
Yep, absolutely. It's a good point. I will tell you that Chris McGinnis is working with Graham Frank from BGB, and I've talked to the district lawyers, and they have committed to making that happen through their client in the next few days here.
Could we send a letter codifying that agreement with a deadline date?
Absolutely. I'd be happy.
And a description of that it's
For the sub-district or the overall?
Yeah, there,
Really?
we have the one for the overall district. We did receive that one. And so now we're just waiting on the sub-district, but I'm absolutely happy to prepare something in response.
Yeah, I just, the old trust to verify.
Yep.
Other questions?
I do. Kirsten, this says in the sub-district to do so, then this is from their attorney, to do so in a manner that's fair and equitable, and to ensure that only properties benefited from the public improvements pay for the cost. Is that how it's going to work?
So yes, so the process will be that there will be a future ballot issue that gets put on the ballot to increase the mill levy. That increase in the mill levy will only apply to the sub-district properties. And that's the reference to the fair and equitable distribution to that. The parcels located in this sub-district.
It's going to go on the townwide ballot?
No, it will be just
On
the
there.
sub-district, yes.
Okay.
Which basically is their board of directors for the district. So, and Kirsten, and the sub-district is subject to the debt cap that the entire district is.
That's
subject
right. There's a $28 million cap that you all had put into the service plan in 2002, and the sub-district is required to be bound by that same limit.
Great. Again, thanks for the time on that. That was some nice light reading.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Careful what you
you
ask for
did
there,
that to
Carlton.
us, Carlton.
Excruciating.
Other questions? All right, that's it for legislative managers report. Mr. Manager.
We are going to go through the public projects update. We have Shannon Smith is joining us virtually there. And James, were you coming that way?
I can.
I didn't know if you were
I'm
going to
planning
be
on
down
it,
here.
but, if you need me.
Shannon, were you going to say anything? Or you-
Sure, I can present. I just wasn't sure what James said. If he was coming down, I was being polite and
Apparently
waiting.
we're not either, so.
James was not planning and.
No, I can take it. So the memo this week tried to give the necessary background to answer the question whether a closure for the roundabout project benefited the schedule. And the answer we came up with the contractor was if we closed for 10 weeks, we could save 4 weeks on the end of the project, finishing 4 weeks early. That also depends on Excel being able to get their work done during the closure, and we do not have any assurance from them yet that they would be able to work during the closure timeframe. So we could lose those 4 weeks to Excel either way. We also detailed all of the impacts that the closure would have, mainly on the overlay work. That's the project that gets most affected if we were to do a closure, because we need to detour down Main Street. So I didn't know if you wanted to ask questions about Watson first, and then we can move on to the other project schedules.
Well, let's get the feedback from the council. I mean, I think staff is pretty clear in the memo that we are not recommending a full closure. I think the cons greatly outweigh the 4 week earlier thing, especially that time of year. It doesn't really matter. October. So
Anybody want to argue with staff on this? We good?
so we're good with
Good
no
with it.
full closure.
Okay,
It's a good memo.
Yeah.
so we'll stick with the phasing as planned. Thank you. And then we also put in information on the other projects that are going to be impactful. Coin Valley Road comes top of mind because we need to close that from April through August to do that culvert project.
Will there be access to the recycling center?
You'll have to come down Airport Road.
Okay, all right.
And we show how the,
Well, I'm sorry, it's going to close just on the other side of the entrance to CMC, right? Just on the
Correct.
very east side of that entrance to CMC. So that access on CMC would still be there.
yep, so you can get to everything just via Airport Road rather than using the intersection with Highway 9.
Okay.
And we'll rebuild, be a temporary rerouting of the path. So it'll, instead of making that curve by CMC and going around, it'll go straight to the north. You saw that on the picture.
Yeah, that's actually the old alignment of the rec path. So we'll fix that up. We'll put some temporary asphalt. We'll make sure it's good for the Ride the Rockies event. That's on our radar for sure. And then other projects, the fiber project is contingent on DOLA grant funding. So I'm not sure if that's even going to go to construction up Ski Hill Road. If we were to go forward with that, that one will catch a lot of attention as well.
Is that funding in question?
We still
We haven't received the DOLA grant. I don't think we hear about that award until March, unless Shannon Haynes knows different.
No, I think you're probably right. And we're still, Kristen Bronson is doing great work with Allo on getting design. So there's a lot of moving parts still with
I
the
see.
fiber piece.
So we've got to put some things together before we can apply.
We do.
Got it.
Well, we have to put some things together before we know what that summer build will actually even look like.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I think we want, we're going to have a very heightened awareness of the local perception that will be out there this summer. Because it's going to be impactful, and it's going to feel that way. And so, we have to stay on top of, marketing and letting people know what's going on and giving them a heads up, but also making sure that we're minimizing any types of dual closures where, we've already got Coin closed, so we can't be doing anything to Valley Brook, right?
Right.
Because that's going to be, that's the main access now, getting in and out of there. So that's the stuff that we just have to really have a heightened awareness as we're doing. And any of that would be fiber type projects. So
The upside is most of that's not in the roadway, right?
no, going north is not in the road.
We just can't have any other closures.
Sure.
I think Jeffrey has a question.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, hey Shannon, so when you relocate the bike path, the old configuration, it was really kind of sketchy. So, hopefully we can, the paving is the least of our worries. We could have signage or something, or, how it goes across the road. That was always one of the more risky places to cross the road. So just be advised when you kind of set that thing up and try to look at it through the eyes of someone that's not really comfortable riding a bike.
Sure, definitely. The good part is Coin will be closed, so we can put the rec path crossing within the closure. So
Oh, okay.
they won't have to fight traffic. We'll just have to keep them safe from the construction activities.
So they will not have to cross. Okay, so it will not be a right of way.
No, because we'll have that
Okay.
closed off
All
to
right.
do the work. So
All
I
right.
think
Oh, okay,
that
good,
will
good.
help a lot.
Yeah, I actually got hit by a car there years ago.
Was that the one where you knocked your shoes off?
Yeah, it knocked me out of my shoes and I went through the front of the windshield and it ended up next to a really nice lady who was very apologetic.
Well, good thing we're putting in a bike underpass there, Jeffrey. So
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
so safe when we're done now.
Yeah, very affordable too. It's okay, thanks.
And we'll work with the county to do plenty of comms efforts to like the Peak 7 neighborhood and all that is in the plan. All right.
Yeah,
thanks.
we'll start the messaging for the coin one in March. We'll put out some variable message boards to give everybody fair warning. And then as far as the downtown work goes, I usually don't start that until about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of starting, because people don't remember if we tell them too early. Because we will be coming down Main Street with overlay, we'll be on French Street, we'll be on Wellington. So we typically message about 2 to 3 weeks before we start. We can do it earlier if you all think it's necessary.
Shannon, will the overlay be done before we start the roundabout?
Overlay be done.
Main Street particularly? or
Main
what?
Street in particular.
Yeah.
Main Street was April, May overlay.
Mhm. And we are starting the roundabout in April as well. So they'll be starting at the same time, Eric, but we'll try to get off of Main Street as quickly as we can with the overlay.
That's going to be important to get that thing out of the way as quick as we can.
Yep. But pending, pending weather, we'll get in there.
Yeah.
Get it taken care of.
Hey Shannon, I have a question about the Riverwalk projects. I think I'm clear on all of them, and it seems like most of them are temporary, that, if they don't work out, we can take them out without having too much money wasted. But I wasn't clear on the rec path extension between Watson and Ski Hill adjacent the river. Was that one that we had unanimously approved and decided that, like, no matter what happens moving forward, we're gonna want that? I thought the rec path stuff wasn't as clear as far as moving forward with that.
Sure. The direction I took was to make the rec path a bit more permanent than we originally had thought. We were going to just do a temp asphalt section and do it kind of narrow. And then council said, well, do it good enough that we can understand if it really works. So we were going to spend the extra money to do a thicker asphalt section and get it as close to 12 to 14 feet as we can. Some areas it gets a little bit more narrow. So that is a bit more of a permanent build, but it can be removed if it doesn't work out.
And so does that include working with that hydrologist or whomever was out on that site visit about getting closer to the river and sort of creating that better experience next to the river?
We weren't going to do those parts yet.
Oh, okay.
We were just going to grade and install the asphalt. And then the next phase would be if we wanted to make gathering areas or do any improvements along the river.
All right.
Good. Other questions for Shannon?
You saw in here that we'll need to do an increase in the cost for the roundabout. Oh,
no surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to bring you a more final number. We still have some contracts for some consultants hanging out there. So we want to get everything dialed in before we come to you with the appropriation amount.
Going to be a very busy summer.
We have got to message this thing to death. People have just got to know what we are doing. Message to death.
Note.
Message it so much that people are like, yeah, we get it. We know you're doing these projects. We get it. There's going to be a lot of pushback, especially with doing one project's one thing, but having that and coin at the same time, we got to be careful what we do on Ski Hill.
Well, and I think it just, it's part of this bigger discussion that we're gonna have a little bit later, but also in a future work session on this whole capacity issue and what we're feeling. And there's lots, as we talked through this, there's lots of reasons why some of this stuff is felt, and some, this is perception of the locals that's going on within the community driving this. And this will just add to that perception.
Yeah.
Because it does add to, traffic issues, vehicles backed up, all that kind of stuff. So, yes.
Probably a good time to push alternative modes of transportation over the summer.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that.
Also, I worry a little bit about the Warriors Mark sidewalk. That's kind of dark at night. And so I hope we have some sort of safety mitigation in place for people that, while we're doing because it's going to narrow the road while we're doing construction.
We'll make sure it's safe. That's also a transit route. So
Yeah.
it's always top of mind to make sure it's all accessible and
Okay.
safe.
Have we thought about temporarily moving the recycling center?
Ooh.
You make that face.
Me?
No,
So-
both of you, actually, you and Rick. It was like the same face.
Same face.
No, we haven't thought about it. That's your question.
Yeah, I mean, could we put it on the school parking site so they don't have to drive all the way out Airport Road to get to it? Shouldn't say they, I should say we, because I'd go out there.
Yeah, even the airport parking lot would be that much
Anywhere.
closer and
Or
less
Stilson.
congested.
Well, how about where the community garden is?
Why not?
So the
Some-
horses are still gonna be there.
Is that,
No, but
is that a
Stilson's
heavy
just,
lift, Rick?
there's
Oh,
nothing there right now.
the
We
other
could
portion.
do it at Stilson. There's plenty of.
Yeah,
room.
I mean, but the difference is like if I'm going there, you're going there, instead of turning down Coin, you're gonna turn down Valley Brook, you're driving the same distance to the site.
Yeah, but it's on Airport instead of Highway 9.
Well, I don't know how many people come from the north side that would have to
Ah, gotcha.
track back.
They have to, obviously, they have.
They're
to
probably
run it.
coming out peak 7, so they wouldn't. I
So
mean,
they wouldn't have to.
yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Look at it, if
But
that's, it's gonna be a bigger question, I would, probably for the county. As to how their pickup and all that.
It's an intriguing thought.
Question.
Yeah, but I just feel like this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, we could give tiny projects to staff forever. And this might be one of those where it's like, sorry, people, you gotta drive 4 extra blocks.
Or
I'm just
throw it in
worried
your
about the
trash.
safety on Airport Road is my concern more than the driving. Because that road, no sidewalks, lots of pedestrians. Not lots, but some. And, people, the traffic tends to go too fast for that roadway. I had a business out there for a long time, so I actually experienced it, and that was years ago. I'm sure it's way worse now. That's where I'm coming from, not the inconvenience as much. It's more of a safety thing on Airport Road
But we posed the
with all our
question.
housing out there now.
Well,
I mean, we can ask the question. I think if it's doable, it's probably not a big lift. But we need to discuss, let us discuss it, let us throw it out to the county and see.
Would that be moving it to the Airport Road parking?
That's what I think. I think we keep it on Airport Road. It still seems a little hard to find for a lot of people.
You just want to move it closer in where you think?
Yeah, I would just move it to the south,
11 area?
kind of as close to Coin Valley or as close to Valley Brook
Valley
as
Brook.
we can. Just to minimize somebody coming off Highway 9, just goes right to it.
That wouldn't put the peak 7 people that far out either. I mean, it'd be a little bit longer for them, but not that much.
But like you said, Rick, I mean, it's not, to me, it's not a deal killer. It's not, you know, it's a thought.
You can say no.
It's okay not to have a facial reaction. A twitch,
Had
a
to
little
say it for
twitch.
you.
Little twitch, little facial twitch. All right, anything else for public projects?
No.
Anybody else want to throw
Monkey wrench in.
a wrench?
No.
Some more busy work.
Jeffrey, you're not doing anything. Can't you work on some of this stuff?
I can't lift anything more than 3 ounces for 8 weeks.
Sustainable Breck plan.
Guys,
Good segue.
good afternoon. We are famously known as the Sustainable Mobility Squad. Sustainable Mobility Squad. Yes.
That's us.
Yeah. So we are just here to get some guidance and approval from you all on the work that Jesse has been working hard on with the update to the Sustainable Breck plan. So we all know Jessie Burley is the resident expert, so I'm going to turn it over to her and let her go with it.
Thank you. This one's not nearly as complicated as REMP, so I'll just cut straight to the chase. So 2021 was the 10-year anniversary of the Sustainable Breck Plan, which was a community-driven plan trying to establish Breckenridge as an environmental leader amongst our peers. The plan was very progressive in that it looked at 10 different sectors within town, kind of your typical sustainability, transportation, water, resource conservation, but it also looked at childcare and housing and some of the other components that really make a community a community. Since that time, there's been a lot of learning. We've had a lot of other types of plans set some really aspirational goals like our 100% renewable energy goals. We have now phased out plastic bags, which is a huge win. We have subscribed to nearly 65% renewable energy through our solar gardens and our rooftop solar projects. We've committed to net zero for workforce housing, 2 of which will come online here in the next year or 2. And that's a huge example to neighboring communities as to what we've been doing and how we are leaders in this space. But the plan doesn't reflect all of those aspirational goals. And it also leaves out things that this particular council and really the sustainability field at large is really trying to refocus on, and that is looking at disproportionately impacted communities, looking at cost benefit analysis, not just on the economic side, but all those co-benefits that environmental practices can add to the community. So those are some of the reasons why we want to update the plan and really build on the synergies of all the other initiatives and efforts that we've been doing to date. The budget has $50,000 in it for 2022. We went out to RFP. We had 6 interested firms. We did a meeting with them, talked a little bit about the scope of work and what we were hoping to get out of the project. We had 1 final submission, which came in well over the $50,000, and it did not meet all the criteria within the scope of work. We went out for a second round of RFPs. We had 3 submissions, 2 of whom we interviewed, and we're prepared to make a recommendation tonight based on your approval here to go with AECom, who is also in partner with Western Urban Sustainability, and Aspire Sustainability, who is actually a local firm here in Breckenridge. Based on their proposal, we are requesting a total of $200,000 for this project. There is $20,000 in the reusable bag fund that we are able to commit to this should council want to do that. And with that, I am happy to take any questions about this project.
Questions? How's everybody feel about it then? You're not going to ask any questions.
I'm in favor.
I support it.
Yes, I'm completely in favor. Question, will this still, with sustainability with a big S, of course, rolling in green initiatives, we have that roadmap to do it sustainably, but just the fact where we'll talk about housing, we're going to bring online 1,000 extra units, how that extra strain to our community's infrastructure is going to play into the 10 previous points too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are all reasons, we are a very different community than we were in 2011. And we heard just earlier about the congestion and the local sentiment, and just all of these different things are coming to a head. And even within the Sustainable Breck Plan, there are tensions between our goals, right? We have very strong economic driving goals, and we're nailing them. We're, increasing our sales tax, we're driving occupancy, we're doing all of these things, but that comes at a cost to the other 9, categories within this plan. So we really kind of taking a broad, holistic look at what that means, and really taking an opportunity to weigh those cost benefits across all of those. But absolutely, the housing is a major player for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I'm fully supportive of doing this.
I want to make sure that out of this, we end up with a plan that's got some teeth in it, rather than, look what we did. You know what I mean? Something that we can use, something that'll answer some of the questions I think we ask all the time about how do we engage multifamily vacationers in recycling? How do we, just all those things that we talk about all the time. How do we start to limit vehicle emissions in the town? How do we do some of those things? Will we get to some of those larger answers through this?
Yeah, we're hoping that this really creates a roadmap that kind of answers the question, what is our biggest bang for the buck? Where are the policy levers that can really drive that change?
Okay.
Yeah.
So along with Eric's question, I feel like one of the stumbling blocks that we're having right now is maybe identifying the right people to help us implement some of these projects. So since these people that you've engaged know a lot of the players in the industry, and, I'm sure there are consultants that help roll these programs out, do you think that part of when we're moving forward with projects over the next 5 years, that especially those near-term projects, maybe we can talk to them and already have identified, here are the top, the industry leaders in helping communities roll these different projects out? Because I do think that's right. Like, from what I see, what we're going it through with some of the other sustainability projects is like really having an expert in that industry help get everybody on board, make sure it's a successful project. And so I feel like at least for the, 1 or 2 or 3 year projects, we should identify who that firm is that we would hire to help us get through that process.
Perfect. We can certainly have that discussion with the consultants, and the gentleman who represents Western Urban Sustainability used to be the basically my position for the city of Denver, and has, even within their proposal, brought forward opportunities for financing these projects and grant opportunities that have been outside the scope of what we've currently considered. So I think there's a lot of expertise within this team that we're recommending.
Great.
And we can certainly bring that up with them as a goal.
That'd be awesome.
Cool.
Thanks.
Great.
And just to drill down a little on what Kelly's talking about, I think some of the upcoming challenges with some of this is things like our dumpster enclosures and, the Riverwalk, and we're engaging with consultants now on the Riverwalk plan. And, does it make sense to expand the scope of their work to look at these dumpster enclosures? And maybe in you guys' process, you can help recommend experts in the field to help us look at that holistically. Because what we're doing now is not going to take us where we want to go in terms of recycling. We know
And
that.
composting.
Exactly.
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah.
We've
Recycle,
been talking about
compost,
it.
grease collection, all of these things that we don't really want to do because it's messy and people don't follow the rules, but we've got to overcome that.
Yeah.
How do we do it? And we've kind of spun our wheels on that one a little, I think, because, it's hard. So people that could help us with that would be great. And maybe we engage Elena and her firm right now to let her know that we're thinking about this, and might be something she thinks about in her Riverwalk, master planning.
We just, a slight side note, but we do have early commitment from the county for $50,000 for Strong Futures to look at a master plan for the dumpster enclosures. What that project, how it fits into the bigger picture still needs discussion, but we went out and asked knowing that this was coming down the pike. So
Well, that'll be a start. Great
yeah.
job. That's awesome.
They have
Is that
money, we should
1A
ask
money?
for it. Mhm.
Are
Great.
we talking in town or are we talking out at the recycle center?
No, it was a proposal specifically for our commercial dumpster enclosures downtown.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anything else? Thank you. Don't leave, Matt.
I won't go anywhere.
Update mobility.
Mobility. I will transition us from her. I would say we do have 3 new Proterra buses that are going to be delivered in January of next year. We've pretty much completed the paperwork and the design work for them. So I'm really excited for that. Basically the same buses that we have now, just with some new updates to them. So
How much better are the batteries today than the ones that we sold?
they get better quite quickly. So we probably will see a lot more improvement just in the next 9 months before we get them. So
Cool.
what I say now is probably going to be outdated by tomorrow.
And are those replacing buses that would naturally go out of?
We are going to replace one physically that's going to actually go out of service. It is out of service now. The other 2 that are coming in are actually technically supposed to replace 2 buses, but we may keep them for a while as backup just to make sure we can run our fleet and continue to offer a good service.
Thanks.
Free ride wise, we've begun spring and summer recruiting. Like I mentioned last week, we are going to go to our summer transit plan on April 25th. The gondola is scheduled to close May 1st. That means that bus service will be the only way to get to the mountain starting May 1st. So at this time for our free ride service plan, we are going to run exactly what we ran last year, which includes the trolley. So I'm excited for that to get back out there again. Ridership this weekend, I wanted to give a quick update. We saw 25,000 riders Friday through Monday. To put that in perspective, that is the second busiest President's Weekend we have on record. It's behind 2019 by only 4,000 riders. So 25,000 riders, which is pretty darn good. So pretty proud of the team for moving all of those folks. Parking structure wise, weekend usage this month, we've seen near 100% occupancy. Midweek, we're right around 50, sometimes a little below. So we are getting pretty good usage out of it. And as Rick mentioned last time, every month. So we are working through a grant right now to add some electronic signage to the parking structure, which we think will help encourage visitors to stay longer and avoid the traffic that obviously we're all seeing late in the afternoon. So traffic counters, if you notice in your packet, we added that. We'll start adding that for every month moving forward. It will include the tunnel and it will include Tiger Road, and it'll also include the Blue River spot right at the town hall there. That one only counts northbound, so that's just something to keep in mind. We'll work on getting it to be north and southbound at some point, but right now everything you'll get will be north and south for I-70 at the tunnel, north and south at Tiger Road, and then just northbound at the Blue River. So,
And Matt, I guess I just would point out that the counter in Blue River is not like it's not a CDOT counter like we have at Highway 9 and Tiger Road. So I don't know that we know it's completely accurate, but it at least gives you comparable data because we've had it up and running for a few years now.
yeah, thank you. And then just for some insight on this past weekend, through the tunnel, they saw 195,000 cars in the 4-day period over the weekend, which is 28% over the same period last year. It's not the highest President's Weekend ever, but it is the 7th highest winter weekend since 2018 on record. So 7th highest is a pretty good number. That's all I have mobility wise.
Questions, Dennis?
Hey, Matt, when we talk about cars going through the tunnel, do we have any way of equating that to how many of them make it to Highway 9 south of Frisco?
So we technically could use that Tiger Road counter to extrapolate the
Do this
difference.
subtraction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me what, we look for a correlation. So if we have an increase in tunnel traffic coming down I-70, do we see that a correlated increase on Highway 9? Sometimes we'll see a decrease in I-70 and an increase in 9, which means more cars are turning off and coming to Breck than, that were coming through there. So we tend to look at both of those together.
And then
Doesn't tell us a lot, Dennis, but it tells us a little
Sure.
bit sometimes. Yeah.
one more piece of the puzzle, and then Airport Road, we park 1,000 cars out there.
We can park up to, yes.
That's max.
That's pretty much maxed out. Yeah. We could get just over 1,000 if we use the snow storage area out there that we put our snow in. So
And then how many signs do we have on Highway 9 from Airport Road in?
depends on which ones you're talking about. Talking about parking lot
Electronic,
ones.
sorry.
Yeah. So we just have our 2 on the north side of town coming into town.
Thanks.
Are we limited, if we wanted to have another one? Are we limited at about how many signs we can have?
I'd have
You have to
to.
get a CDOT, probably do a permit through CDOT, but.
Thank you.
Those counters, you know, the non-CDOT counters, and I'm kind of thinking ahead to our capacity discussions later. Do we lease those or contract for those, or do we own any of the simpler? I mean, I'd love to see counts on Ski Hill Road, because that is getting really troubling in the afternoons after skiing. I mean, it is back way up.
We can certainly, we have both. I mean, we could do tubes if we needed, if we wanted to do tubes and hire out to do that. And then we do have some, they're the radar signs, the speed signs that will also count cars. So we can look at what's the best option for Ski Hill Road. Talk to
Okay.
James.
Tubes
Great.
are tough in the winter, right? 'Cause if
Pardon me?
Tubes on the roadway are tough in the
Yeah,
winter. 'Cause
for
if you plow,
plows.
you're gonna tear them up. I think the one that we own and purchased, the one by the blue coming in from the south, and it is a camera system, I believe
I
something.
don't think it's a camera. I think it's a radar.
Okay, but it gets above ground versus, isn't the one on
Yes.
Highway 9 in the ground that crosses over, which is why it gets everything.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
we'll get to that when we get to the capacity discussion, but while we were
Yeah.
talking about these counters, I thought I'd bring it up.
Let's get out there with a clicker.
Those are light. We'll get Jeffrey to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, but where's your baseline? And that's what's
Right.
important, what are we comparing it to? I know, If
Establish
you don't
that.
start, you don't have it.
Jeffrey with a lawn chair and an umbrella and a little clicker.
I have some time on my hands, yeah.
We have a traffic engineer study. We can
We did, yeah. So
see
Shannon
how
said-
things relate to that.
Some of
at this
those numbers
point.
out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else for Matt?
I have one thing that I want to bring up to you on our parking and mobility. So it's my recommendation. Before I implement it, I want to make sure that you don't have any real heartburn with this, that we no longer do a warning to park vehicles that fail to pay. So for years, we've been doing, everybody gets one warning if you fail to pay. And we're doing it at the parking structure, and we're doing in a weekend, 200 warnings a weekend.
Oh.
There's no reason that you pull into that lot that you don't know you have to pay. And honestly, I think we shouldn't be doing it anywhere in town anymore. We've had pay parking long enough. The people that live here know they're required to pay. The guests turn over every week. So what do we?
And they should know anyway, because they come from places where they have paid parking.
I don't think we should
Everybody
be
knows about
doing.
pay parking.
I don't think we should have a practice of everybody gets, the first bit. They go by license plate, so every license plate gets one warning. I think that's archaic now, practice for us.
Agreed.
I'm in agreement with that. I think we've outgrown that.
Is there still a good funnel to, if there's some kind of a glitch or there was a wrongful ticket, there's still a good funnel to figure that out?
We do have a very good appeal process.
Okay.
Very simple. They can either call in, stop in, or email us, and it's fixed by Breck Park immediately. So.
Okay, great.
And Matt,
I've done that a few times. It's very seamless.
And I
I was
have,
gonna say
yeah,
very fair. Yep.
yeah,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
good.
System's not working if you're trying to follow the rules and it's not. We've had those, but 200 cars on
Oh.
Saturday and Sunday that just don't
No.
pay.
Yeah, I completely support it. I just know that this is anecdotal, but if the, I don't know, internet's down, Wi-Fi's down or something, like you can't get in, that seems to help if like, oh, I just got a warning anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's my only concern. I think otherwise it totally makes sense.
Yeah, we'll still have some compassion.
Sure, it's a good question. The app's been much better lately.
Great.
Hasn't been glitchy. I've been using it a lot and
Great. That's good feedback. We've been working with them and we're also still looking at opportunities to either switch or improve as we move. That contract is up at the end of April. So
cool.
Do anyone have an idea how much what we have for outstanding collections? Are we kind of behind on this, or are people paying up? You know,
just going through something with Breck Park, a little exercise with Passport. They have, we send out letters at 30 days and 60 days for people that aren't paying their dues, we'll call it. And they are actually finding that they have 93% of people are actually paying for those citations or getting them appealed or whatever it might be. So they find a resolution to 93%. That is shocking, but that is also to say that is specific to the Passport app. So if you use one of the other stations or the other app, Honk app, it may be different. We don't have that data yet.
How do they track it if it's a rental car?
It's tied to that renter's actual name when it's checked out to them. So
Several years ago, we came up with a system where we go after the rental companies and then they go after their contract. Yeah, and then they have to pay. But collections has been a funny thing, especially since we transferred over to new systems and it's not in the PD anymore because PO boxes and home addresses continue to be a little bit of a challenge for getting those letters out to people more locally than non-local, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've never gotten one, and the kids seem to find parking tickets in the floorboard of their car for quite some time after. So.
Yeah.
I'm sure as a kid.
Anybody else?
You got something, Dennis?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Matt, purple A and B, are we back to running both? Are we still?
we're running the hybrid. So purple A in the morning and purple B starting at 3:45. And we've been playing with the app and it is reading properly. So if you keep an eye on it, it does tell you when it switches over from A to B. So.
And that's due to drivers, right? Not enough.
That was
Okay.
correct.
I think we committed that it's just going to stay that way through the winter.
That's also our summer offering. That's what we ran last year during the summer. So that's probably what we'll run this year as well.
Does that stop at 3:45?
A stops at 3:45 and goes to purple B
Okay, thank you.
the whole night. Yeah. As B.
It's been packed both ways.
We have had very good call outs from the Summit Stage on our ridership for that route. So, because that's their route.
Hey, man, I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but how confident are you on staffing for this summer? And the context of the question is, we've got a lot of construction projects. Plus, we feel like hopefully with the pandemic where it is, it's time to really start pushing public transit more robust, really getting after it. Are you confident with hiring and the drivers and such where we could embark on that? Obviously we have to start planning.
Yeah, we have a fantastic team of drivers, as you already know. But we also have had the recruiting process going for the last 3 weeks. We have 6 people in the hired pipeline. They'll probably all show up. Obviously, that's always an issue. We have some of them that are actually showing up here in the next week or so to start driving right away. So I feel very good with where we're headed. The goal is to have 25 drivers. We're currently at 28 plus those 6. And then we'll obviously lose a few people right at the end of this, winter. It's time to move back to wherever they need to go to. So at this point, we feel very good with it. I'll let you know if that changes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anything else? Thanks, Matt. Thank you. All right, housing and childcare.
Unless you have any questions on those. we can have a comprehensive conversation.
Bless you. Good. Any, I did have a childcare question. Something that Kelly said this afternoon. The number of people, I'd like to know how we segregate. Do we segregate the number, the different names on the wait list. So Elizabeth Lawrence said there's 332. I'd like to know what the makeup of that is. How many of those people are putting their name on the list before they even move to the community? How many of those are people putting their name on the list because they're having a child coming up? How many of those people are employees in the community as opposed to they've just decided to move the community and they want to put their kids in childcare? I'd really be curious to see what those numbers show.
Current wait list is segregated by age, so you would be able to know the ones that are not born yet. That's pulled out separately.
Zero.
But the Breckenridge centers, excuse me, are collecting that information as far as where they work because they have been given a priority for those that are working locally. The north end of the county has not started doing that from what I know. Am I wrong? Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, this is the new number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never got a chance to just stop it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yep. So 355 was total. The greatest need is 0 to 12 months. We know that. But the north end of the county is, I don't think has yet to fill that part out. So the data doesn't fully show that. So we could get that for Breckenridge with our current centers. But we do have the age segregation.
As we start to talk about building a new facility, I think there's a lot of questions now that are beyond what we used to just say, hey, the list is this big, let's build a center. I really want to know who we're building it for and
Are they here?
are they
I
here?
think I think that's great. We should get all that information and we keep trying to work with the centers to like refine. But I believe I'm safe in saying that for years and years, we've had well over 200 local kids on the wait list. So no matter if it's 200 or 350, all local waiting right now for care, it's way more than enough to fill an entire center. So that's kind of why maybe we haven't drilled down to that specific.
I'd still like to know before we pull the trigger. And then I'd also, and I know this is a hard thing to figure out, but what happens when Silverthorne gets the free facility from the county that they're, you like that snarky town? No, what happens when they end up, there ends up being a facility on the north end of the county? What does that do to our numbers? Because I don't even have a good sense of how many people just drive their kids over here that don't work or live in the community. And I'd like to know that also as we start to talk about this.
Yep. And that data is easy for us to get through ECO. Again, it's something that we have for Breckenridge, but to answer a question like that, I think you'd need complete county data.
Yeah.
So ECO is managing the wait list now, not managing it as far as giving out spots, but they're managing it to deduplicate it. So they always know this number. And I know they can drill in further than what they've even supplied to us, which is really that age differentiation. The interesting conversation as we get closer to looking at building, I think, is more what we do to look at that age group, because we are predominantly 75% are children in that infant toddler age on those wait lists. And so we technically have good capacity in the county for our preschool age kids. But those are the most expensive kids because your ratios are lower there. So I think that'll be part of the conversation with the committee, with our local committee, and then with ECO. But I think it's hard to say how then the Smith Ranch will affect if we did something here in Breckenridge, especially because has been delayed so many times. Yeah. It just is sort of compounding that list at this point because people have this sense of hope that it'll be there and it's just not started yet. So.
Do we know what their planned makeup would be for infants versus toddlers for Smith Ranch?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think I don't think they've released anything for that.
All right. Anything else? Childcare and housing? Okay, thank you. We're going to take a quick 5 because Dennis asked for it.
Just throw them out under the bus.
That's exactly
Unit GA Development Agreement Work Session. And then we'll get to our comprehensive housing discussion after that, because it's going to be longer. There he is. Hey, Chapin.
I was listening in, but I didn't hear that you got moved up.
Oh, no, that was a
Okay.
game time decision.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
All right. So this is a proposal for a development agreement. Mark Hogan with BHH Partners is the prospective owner. This is a basement apartment in the Big Sky building. It's located at 160 East Adams Avenue. The proposal is to convert the project from its existing commercial use to employee housing. The master plan expired a long time ago. So the development agreement or the development permit application would require for that change of use, it would require would be required to meet the land use guidelines and the development code. Currently would not be subject to the master plan. So the issues with this proposal, if the planning commission were to review this project under the land use guidelines and the development code, the issue would be that the conversion would exceed the maximum density of the zoning of the land use guidelines by over 700 square feet. The additional density would also require a TDR, transferable development right. And the issue with that is that the historic district is prohibited from receiving density transfers in our code. I just want to note that there would not be an increase in the parking requirement with this proposal. So the request from the applicant is number one is to exempt the density transfer from that prohibition for density being transferred into the historic district. So in other words, allow the density to be transferred. Following that, the request is to have the town transfer its own density to the site instead of having to pay for that from Summit County. And then finally, the request includes waiver of certain fees that would include the development agreement application fee, development permit application fee, the water plant investment fee. Those all three are planning fees. And then also the real estate transfer tax. That's a finance fee. So in exchange, the applicant is proposing to restrict the occupancy of the condo to employee housing without an AMI restriction. So that would just be the 30 hours per week and nothing really more. And just want to point out that the development agreement is entirely at the discretion of the town council, of course. So staff doesn't necessarily have any criteria in the code for recommending approval. We do not recommend waiver of the water plant investment fee or the real estate transfer tax, as is pointed out in your memo. If the applicant was to propose an AMI restriction, staff would support the water plant investment fee waiver. Staff does support the remaining proposed terms that are in your packet. Just a couple of considerations here. Staff really does think the downtown is a great location for local employees to live, especially those who are working downtown. As a result of that, you get reduced vehicular trips, reduced emissions. The cost of the application fee that's requested to be waived, or the fee waiver, the application fee waivers, and the cost of the TDR is significantly less than, as you know, than going out and building a new unit or buying down a unit. And finally, there's not an increase in floor area that would result from the increase in density, since that floor area is already there. It's just an increase in density because of the change of use. So we have three questions in your packet. The first question is, does the council support the requested proposed fee waivers? Knowing staff's input on that, as I just mentioned earlier. Second question is regarding the density transfer into the historic district, which the code does not currently allow. And then finally, just if you support the remaining terms of the development agreement. I can take any questions. I just walked in, so I'm not sure if Mark Hogan is in the audience.
Yes.
Or not.
Behind
Oh,
you.
sorry, Mark, didn't see you. And I know Mark has told me he would appreciate an opportunity to say a few things to the council also.
Absolutely.
So, thanks.
Thanks, Chapin.
Eric, I'd also like to make sure that the council understands that a month ago, the housing committee looked at this also. And the housing committee certainly supports a conversion and the creation of workforce housing, but they have a really hard time getting behind. And at that time, there was not a proposal for the PIF, or the RET was not proposed when we looked at it. And we said, from the housing community perspective, the only way that they could support the density and the fee waivers would be if we got a AMI cap on the rent. So.
Okay. Mark, do you want to come sit at the desk, or do you want to stand at the dais?
I'll sit down. First of all, thank you so much for your time. Chapin is very helpful and very smart, so we appreciate all his help. Gene Baker started our company in 1976, and we've been here in Breckenridge since then, and Breckenridge has changed a lot, and I think it's really changed for the better, and we're pleased to always help out any way we can. We built that building in 1982, and back then we actually built an employee housing unit. It was one of the first ones in Breckenridge, and we deed restricted it, and it's been still in use in the same level of that building. And what we're proposing is it's a walkout basement, and we're proposing to convert that office space into a studio housing unit for our employees at our architectural firm. In the last year, we've had two different CAD draftsmen accept offers to join our firm. They come here and we try to help them find a place to live, and they can't find a place. So we're actually doing this to help our company have places for our CAD techs to work and to live. We think that it's a great thing. We really don't want to do an AMI cap for a number of reasons, and one of which is that the employees that we have actually don't fit into the 100. They'd be up at probably 120 or 130. But we are requesting that we waive the transfer tax. And the reason is we have a 1031, and Eric Dahman is here as our builder and our realtor. So he's purchasing the unit, and then Marilyn and I will be purchasing it from him based on the 1031 exchange. Dennis, you've probably done that before. So really, that's really what we're asking, and we would like to get the additional fees waived. We're purchasing the unit for $245,000. We paid 1% transfer tax already. The unit is Marilyn and I are going to buy it for roughly $500,000. We are buying a parking place in the agency building, which is off the parking lot behind our office building, and that space will be dedicated to that unit. So, and that parking place costs $45,000. So at the end of the day, it's about a $500,000 deal, which is a lot of money for our company to spend on a housing unit, but we think at the end it's worth it. So any help you can give us, we'd really appreciate it. We would like to get the second transfer tax waived because we paid the first one. So I don't really think it's exactly fair to pay two transfer fees.
So who currently owns the space?
Eric Dahman.
You own it right now.
I closed on it January 31st. Paid that first transfer tax.
Who did
Oh,
you?
you bought it from him? Oh.
Steph started working with the previous owner, and then they formed a partnership where Eric's buying it, converting the unit, and is going to sell it to Mark.
Gotcha. So is that a condominiumized building?
It is. The building's condoed, and that's a lower level. It's a walkout basement.
How many other owners are in the building?
A total of 3.
Okay.
We're one, and then there's 2 others. The existing deed restricted employee unit is owned by Dan Burdette, his family. He was a realtor here for years. You might have known him. And then Joan Owens owns some spaces on the mid-level.
Okay.
Hey, that might be an allowable exemption on rent.
Yeah.
And we've been dealing with that recently, but it's not part of the same LLC or anything. So it's close enough that you might want to go ahead and consider that since we have collected it, you know, within the last
That
month.
definitely does change things. That was not as apparent in this,
Yeah.
that chain had gone on.
So we deal with those on, you know, at least once or twice a month where people are somehow on
Right.
a 1031 or other different LLC type things where and the intent was really that, you know, it's been paid once recently. So.
Right. Dick?
Hey, Mark, would you be open to an AMI restriction on the rent only? You know, there's two different AMI restrictions, one on income, which I don't think we're as interested in, and I think you're concerned about. Really, what we're interested in is more of a rent control AMI cap.
I don't, you think that would affect our value? It would. So that, the problem is that would affect the value. And again, it's a 700 square foot unit and we're going to be buying it for $500,000. So it's a pretty
Eric,
expensive.
how much, 10% value for a cap?
You know, we're seeing it's more like 15% in the marketplace these days for deed restricted unit versus a market unit. These are the ones that
Yeah, but this is the differential between
Deed
an
restriction.
already deed restriction and a rent cap. So that wouldn't be the full 15%. You know, because Mark's already offered to deed restrict it to get these other incentives to get this done. And we really want to work with you, Mark, and we want to get this done, but we're just seeing, you know, as these units sell and turn over, you know, we're just really working hard to try to have affordable rents for our workforce. And that's our motivation. And for me, I don't speak for the whole council. I get it. You know, I'm not into the income, you know, caps, the AMI income side. I'm more concerned about the AMI rent side and just having affordable rent for our workforce. And which is why, you know, I'm supportive of a lot of these waivers. So if you could consider that, I think we could, for me anyway, that would really make it easier to get this done.
Other questions?
From the precedent setting standpoint, is it within this agreement, just the language would be very clear that, how do you feel about this carrying over to other situations of transferring density into the historical district? Do you feel confident that it wouldn't be too precedent setting?
As staff has talked about this, I think the big thing is that the fact that it's existing floor area. And so we're not, I think it would be different if we were talking about increasing density and adding new floor area. But yes, we are comfortable with that. You know, we haven't had a lot of these kind of situations come up before, so we don't really have a lot of past precedent for proposals to increase density in the historic district, where it doesn't increase floor area. So this is a little bit, you know, new waters here, but yeah, I think considering it's not increasing the floor area, we're okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Has it happened before where there is increase? Like what is
We wouldn't
just
allow it.
generally that hasn't happened before as far as density increase in the historic
No, you
district?
cannot transfer density into the historic district.
Yeah.
Well, but with the development degree, like
We
there
have not
hasn't
al-
been
we have-
one.
No, we have not allowed.
That's
Since
my
the
question.
historic district code's gone in, we haven't allowed any.
It hasn't happened.
Yeah, and you know, the transferable development rights program is relatively new compared to the town's history and the development code, which started in the 1970s and stuff. So there's not a lot of precedent for development agreements to begin with.
Yeah.
It's just more recently, you know, past couple of years, we started seeing these more smaller development agreements related to these employee housing conversions. So then there's not really precedent for that.
Okay.
On the RET, Eric, just so I heard that correctly, when you bought it for $250-ish, so.
245,000, so I paid $2,450.
Okay, and then you're reselling it for almost double that. So, I mean, there's a difference in the RET there that's what already been paid.
Right, we have to add the kitchen and we have to cut the slab
Oh, yeah.
and put the bathroom in and all the finishes. So
And again, I'm okay, but it just keeps going back to that.
construction costs right now are
that
is
AMI.
very crazy too.
Oh,
So
yeah. You're preaching the choir on that one.
Where's Lori?
I mean, if the applicant were to consider a rental some type, like 100% AMI, rental, this would be $1,800 a month, right? Just so, you know, yeah. And I don't know. 100%
Well, the way it's going to work, it's a little complicated. The way we're setting it up is BHH Partners Architects will be renting it for their employees. And they'll be renting it from Mark and Marilyn Hogan. So we have different entities, from the LLC. You guys know how that works. So it gets a little complicated on how the rental cap might work. I think we're better just to keep it clean is really what our proposal is. We don't mind. It's housing for locals and it's deed restricted to stay that way.
And
That's
Lori,
really our proposal.
we're calling this deed restricted light, right? I mean, that's what this is. This is our normal, no STR, 30 hours a week. And that's what we're proposing. Other questions?
So I just, if you would give us a chance to analyze the legal issues around the, waiver and Tabor and tax issues with the new scenario, that would be helpful. We want to make sure that.
Yeah, it may
that's-
not be as easy as what I.
And there is a process for a exemption, so it may be cleaner after Kirsten has a chance to look at it if they would like to request a waiver of the RET, that it
Do it through
runs
the waiver
through the
system.
waiver
Okay.
system that already exists.
And there's no, if it doesn't meet the criteria.
Okay. All right. Questions for council that are on that last sheet. Dennis, you want to start?
I think we have it. I think I have all the answers covered, but you want us to comment on the 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. And you can leave the red out because it sounds like that might be more of a technical issue with
Yep.
the Tabor question.
I'm good on the coverage from commercial to residential. I think we need employee housing. I am good with the required deed restriction. And I think I'd follow staff's recommendations on the remainder of the project.
Nick?
Yeah, the red, I would encourage you guys to go through the waiver process. The density transfer, again, I had the same question Carol did. It's not good to hear that this would not be precedent setting for the historic district increasing density. So I'm okay with that. I really need some kind of rent control to feel okay about waiving the water PIF and the fees, so.
Okay. I think I agree with Dick. I guess I would say I support the density transfer if there's an AMI rent ceiling. And it's okay if it's 100 or 120. I just need that to be there to feel comfortable with this, because I do worry that we don't do this a lot, right? Like that's what we're talking about. And I do agree that the fact that the square footage stays the same, that's great. However, this is a sensitive area. And so I do want to make sure that we have that cap. With or without waiving, but I guess with that, I would waive the PIF, but that's the way I would support this. Does that make sense? But I'm okay waiving the PIF if that happens, but I'm not okay with this if that doesn't happen. And yeah, of course, I defer to council about the RET.
Mark, I'm super glad that you brought this to us. I think it's a great place for workforce housing, and I'm excited about, it seems like every council meeting for the last few, we've had a good proposal. So that's great. I do think we should be looking at this similarly to our other programs and what we're paying for a unit. And I think that this is a competitive price for that. With that being said, we know that our water fund really can't bear much of a loss in funds. So what I would support is that you actually pay the PIF, deal with RET, however that shakes out. I support the transfer of density and waiving that fee. The other fees are fine. It's the water the water PIF that I don't agree with, and I'm okay with the rest of it. And I would love it if you put 100% AMI cap on that. I think that would, just the rent, not the how much people make. But that's not a deal breaker for me.
Carol.
Yeah, this is great. If we can have someone, a private partner, private-public partnership to bring housing online is always a win for the community. And it is by waiving our fees, and the density transfer, it's still less expensive than building a unit. So I am supportive of that. With the other issues, I agree with staff's assessment. I wouldn't support waiving the PIFs without an AMI rental cap being considered. And it sounds like the RET situation is a taper issue. So defer to Kirsten.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I agree with Kelly and Carol on this one. I think the PIFs, I follow with the staff on that. We'll figure out the ret, and I want to make this happen.
We have done a lot of things to get deed restricted light on a lot of units. So I don't think the AMI should be a hangup. I'm a little surprised actually that that's where we're going to draw the line. I say that but I also say that the water PIF to me is not a discussion point. AMI or not, the water you have to pay for. Because if he doesn't pay for it, we're going to pay the water fund back. And I don't want to do that. The RET doesn't bother me. I think there's an avenue for that. And the rest of the fees I'm fine with. But I want the water PIF paid. We're tight enough on water right now that we can't, either the applicant pays for it or the town's going to pay for it ourselves. So I don't need an AMI. I don't need a rent cap. I just want the water PIF paid. Out of all this stuff, that is the most important piece to me, that we keep the water fund whole. So that's it for this application. I would ask planning to look into something though, that I was thinking about doing during this. Is there a way that we can, in the historic district, if somebody has in this case, a building that's previously been built, that the density is really already there. I mean, this TDR transfer is a philosophical transfer that we're going to have to take out of a bank that we should be able to use for other housing. Is there a way that we can have a different mechanism that we can apply this ghost density to something that's already been built in the historic district if you're converting into an employee housing unit that has, at the very least, deed restricted light. So if you guys could just, I don't need an answer, but it's something to look into. Because I'm fine with this. I just hate pulling it off of our limited TDR bank. I'd rather have a different mechanism, if you guys all agree.
I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, the whole point is that we're at capacity, and I'm not really sure that we should be, I think we should extinguish the density.
But it's already there. And there's probably more people that work in, there's oftentimes more cars and more people that work in these offices than live in a house. And I think that residential is a lower, while we classify it as a higher TDR, it is a lower burden on the community than office space or retail or commercial space.
Think about it.
Can they look into it? Is that cool? You all right with that? All right, let's just look into it.
Something about
Yes,
that.
please, Mark.
And I was surprised about the density because the space is existing and the square footage is there. And just from a common sense standpoint, I know the rules are the rules, and I don't mean to complain about those, but it's existing space. And I agree with you that the residential use is actually less intense than a commercial or even an office use. So I was always surprised about the density, but just a comment.
Thanks. Chapin, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Mark, thank you. Thanks for bringing this. Appreciate it.
That's what I heard from the majority of the council, is that you're okay with the way it's proposed with the transfer of the density going in, but if any other fees are going to be waived, you're going to need to see an AMI rent cap.
Yeah.
That's what I got from the majority of people here.
Hands for whoever wanted that, Dick.
Well, Dennis said he supported staff's recommendation is that you don't get, we're not waiving these other fees unless we have a rent cap.
But yeah,
but
the
the
rent,
four-
they're gonna try to go through other channels, but the PIF and the development fee, I guess. Those are
We
two
would
fees.
pay the development fee.
Yeah, that's right. Dick said no.
Well,
No
let
PIF.
us,
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, I'm okay with the development fee for a deed restriction light. I'm not okay with the PIF.
So that we have the 6,700 development agreement application fee and the Class C minor. So you have about, let's say another $8,000 on top of the 60. If you pull the PIFs and the rent out of there without a,
So you want the less fees?
I agreed with staff recommendation, which was fee waivers and the density. So, yes.
Yeah.
with or without AMI cap.
I'm fine as is. I would go above and beyond with PIFs if there was AMI, is how I said it.
So I think the majority of council is saying you can waive the fee and have the cap, or you don't have the cap and you don't waive the fee. So I think, it's a converse way of going about it, but Eric has majority as far as you pay the PIF, you don't have to do the cap.
I think we're trying to clarify the application fees, right? Correct?
That's all
Because
waived.
There's
Yeah,
multiple
we
fees.
should waive everything.
I don't need a cap in this case because in this situation, Mark is renting to his employee.
it's the next owner.
When he sells it.
Yeah, that's
he's
not
gonna
definite.
own that business forever. I'd love to think you would, but
Right.
your deed restrictions, they stay with the property and that's the important part.
But we've been paying for deed restricted light. We've been paying more money than this
Yeah.
to have people we're doing buy downs and spending a lot of money on buy downs to get a deed
And
restricted
there's
light.
no
We're-
AMI.
Those units, we keeping those units from being STR.
No,
This unit could never be an STR. So,
But there's
No,
no
but there's
AMI
still-
cap in the other deed restricted light. All right, I'm fine with, thank you for bringing this up. I think
Well,
it's,
I think we're waiving all the fees except the water pit.
Except the water, yeah.
and we're not requiring an AMI then.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hang my hat on the AMI.
yeah, I think it's fine.
That's fine with us. We'll pay the PIF
And we'll find out if you qualify for an exemption.
that's
You'll
right.
have to apply for that.
And if not,
The planning fees are waived.
yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now to the comprehensive housing discussion. Nice to see you, Marilyn.
Sure. This is the whole housing crew.
Whole team.
This is the whole crew.
What?
Never seen them all in the same place before.
I'm sitting in the other chair.
They're like Lori.
Nice to see you have a team with you now.
It's
great.
That's a big celebration. It's
They
having a
probably
team.
never met all of your team.
No, they haven't met everybody themselves.
So,
Have you all met everybody? You
No.
wanna Just do a quick introduction.
please.
Melanie Lee's Housing Project Manager. Kelsey Reeds, Workforce Housing Compliance Admin.
Austin Dean, Childcare and Housing.
Burr, housing program manager.
Lots of hats.
And parking.
I see Helen is pulling up my staff report. Will I be able to scroll through that or? Cool, perfect. Thank you. I got every,
I didn't want them on. No, she has some already.
I don't know. I'm salty, just straight salty.
But you took all of them.
well, good afternoon. Going to have a great opportunity to chat about the housing program and the future of the housing program. So we're really excited about that. My cover memo and the 5-year blueprint is in your packet. And I actually had, I'm sure you guys have read this, but I had 10 sort of specific questions or items to discuss with you, and we can go through those in order, and then can open it up to any other questions that you might have in addition to the questions I have for you. So the whole goal of this is to really set some targets for us and for our programs to for the next 5 years. And I think the first thing is it's nice to maybe have some common language about what we call this. So that was my first point, because we call it affordable housing, attainable housing, employee housing, workforce housing. And maybe if we can all start using some common terminology, especially as we're going to start marketing this program and getting more press and PR around it. I think we prefer local workforce housing as the terminology. And if that is okay with you guys, we'll go forward with that. The second item has to do with our targets, our goals for the next few years. See if I can get this to scroll. If I point it there. Let's see if you can make that scroll. On the sort of, I think it is page graph, which is the investment plan. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Hey, Lori, before you go too far,
Sure.
could you address a question that came up
Sure.
when we were going over the agenda with Eric on the first page there?
Mhm.
Under number 3, where we talk about the different types of buy downs and housing helps things where we'll go out and pay people. So the concept of paying somebody up to 10% of the value of the home for where there's already an existing STR restriction,
Right.
and why we see 10% value in that.
Right. Well, I mean, the goal of our housing program is to ensure those units are occupied by somebody that's working in Summit County for a business located in and serving our community. By having a no short-term rental, you prevent the unit from being a vacation home, but you certainly don't ensure that it's going to be occupied by a local workforce. It can be occupied by a retiree. The owner can use it as a vacation home. They can have their friends come and use it as a vacation home. The only thing they can't do is short-term it. We see a lot of the competition for the housing stock out there is actually coming from remote workers who are up here and they're working, but they're not really serving the needs of our local businesses. So we see significant benefit in improving a no short-term rental restriction to a deed restriction that requires local employment for business located in and serving. And it requires it to be occupied and used for that purpose. A unit with no short term may not even be occupied.
And some of those examples could be market rate units in the Wellington Lincoln Park that already have a no STR allowed, but many of those are owned by second homeowners.
How do we ensure somebody's in those units?
Well, we are really beefing up our compliance. Now we have a full-time compliance person. And so we're going to, we talk a little bit about our monitoring process later in the memo, but we've been talking a lot with the Housing Authority about their annual process. And really, we've had an annual process for a long time, but they're going to beef up their annual process. We're going to have audits and we're going to be doing random audits. And so there's going to be a lot more oversight of our inventory between what the Housing Authority is doing and what we're going to be doing at the staff level. I mean, we're already getting all of our deed restrictions into a digital database. So now we can easily sort them, track them, monitor that we have a updated self-affirmation, and then monitor when we go out and do special audits. So I really think our monitoring and oversight is going to be significantly beefed up.
Lori, can you just clarify for me? So with the Wellington House example, either the people could live there themselves or they could rent to someone who works locally, a local workforce?
If it has a deed restriction light on it, or if it just has a no short-term rental. Which one are we talking about?
On the Wellington,
Light
doesn't,
deed restriction.
it couldn't override other rules. So,
They
I
have
mean,
to
you
be a
can only
market
rent for a
unit.
year. Right.
Plus it was a market unit.
Market units don't have those same rules.
Right now, you can
STR
rent a
work.
Wellington
No, you
unit
can't
for
STR.
1 year.
But you can't STR in the Wellington on a market.
No short-term under the HR.
No, so that'd be
HOA.
the type of unit
would
that
be
you
the
could
unit
pay
that
up
you
to
could do that.
10%.
Right, okay.
So you could pay up to 10% of it in order that it would always be a rental and they couldn't live in it themselves?
For Wellington's a unique situation. I mean, the goal of this is somebody comes to us with a deed restriction that has a no short-term rental. We have a few of those. Wellington doesn't really have that. There's an HOA prohibition on short-term rental.
Oh, but it's not deeded, right?
Oh, so if you had,
No deed
okay, so if you
restriction,
had a
yeah.
condo.
If you had a
somebody owned
condo and had a no short-term rental restriction, which there's only a few of them out there as we're going through our monitoring and getting everything into our table. There are not that many that fall into this, that all they have is a restriction against short-term rental. But if they wanted to convert that and have an employee living in there, that's a significant benefit to us.
Yeah.
It could be maybe Moose Landing, though some of those units have a no short-term rental and that's all they have on them. They can be used by the owner, they can be a vacation home, they can be rented for 6 months or 2 months. They can be used by a remote worker, which is really, impacting our ability to have our locals that need to be up here, living up here. So we view that trading off a no short-term rental for a employee restricted unit is a big improvement.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to figure out is if we pay someone 10% for this Moose Landing property, are the two options for them to use the property from that day going forward that either they live there or they rent to a workforce
Has to be occupied by somebody working locally, cannot
or
be
themselves?
or them if they're working locally, if they
They'll have
meet
to-
the
yeah, they'd
criteria.
have to work.
Yeah, they have
They'd
to
have to
work.
meet the def-
10% seem, I mean, that's a workforce housing unit and 10% seems, capping it at 10% seems really low to me.
Yeah, but it cannot be a short-term rental already. So if we're taking one that is market and can be short-term rented, then we're in the next category, 15 to 20. It's just this one kind of unique situation where there's already a restriction prohibiting short-term rental. So they could rent it for 31 days to a remote worker over and over and over.
Right.
And so if they agree to convert it from that ability to put an employee in there at a deed restriction light, we'll give them 10%. That's not quite as valuable as if we're pulling one out of the short-term rental market.
But it's still a unit. I mean, I guess we could go around in circles
Yeah.
all day, but I guess my point is, so if that's a $500,000 unit, what we're saying is that we would give them $50,000 and we would have just gotten a workforce housing
Yes.
unit.
Yeah.
Which to me seems like, it seems like we could pay more than that. But
I also feel the landscape has kind of changed if we're capping short-term rentals, because wouldn't everything that doesn't have a short-term rental, aren't they kind of in this pool already?
Well, they can rent 31 days.
Yeah, they kind of are in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But they can still get a license at some point, license or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're
Still
not,
rent to
they're
remote
not gonna
workers. I
put
think
a
that's the-
a deed restriction in perpetuity for that trade-off
Right.
on the value, just because they can't get an STR license.
Yeah. I just don't, I think this incentive is not going to be high enough, but
enough.
we can.
It's interesting that the two of you are sitting next to each other.
I think
Well,
it's
I
too
wish
high.
Jeffrey was here, but no buffer.
Well, I don't want to delay too much conversation, but I
Right.
know it got raised, and so.
I understand it better now, though, so I'm fine with it.
Let's go back to number 2 bullet, so we can go to the chart of units, because one of the sort of basic starting points for this 5-year plan is sort of what's in the pipeline, what are we expecting in terms of all the way to this one, all the way, what are we expecting over the next 5 years in terms of new housing units, in terms of preservation of existing units. So this chart's a little bit hard to follow, but up on the top, these are the projects that we are anticipating to come online within the next 5 years. So basically that's about 600 new units that we're anticipating coming on in the next 5 years. In addition to that, we're proposing that we really beef up our housing helps and our buy down numbers. So we would actually be, I think it's doubling the number of housing helps we do and tripling the number of buy downs that we do, because preservation of existing units has just got to be a part of this plan. We can't build our way out of this. So, probably the fundamental piece of this plan is that we are anticipating, 600 new units, new construction, and then we're anticipating about 370 of preservation of existing units. So that gets us to that number of about 974 units over the next 5 years. And then down below this, I think there's revenue anticipated annually. I've only filled out, 2022 estimates, but this is represents about $9 to $10 million a year projected revenue. So over the next 5 years, that translates to $50 million of revenue over the next 5 years. And so what we view is that, we are going to be using that revenue to participate in those construction projects and leverage our fund to make those projects happen. Whether it's Alto Verde 1, we're putting $4 million into that project. That's a $32 million project. So that's just an example of how our $50 million in projected revenue goes to incentivize the development of 9 units over the next 5 years. So kind of just wanted to explain how the graph works and how the chart works.
This is, Austin and Lori are working on based on what comes out of here today, we really want to put out a 1-page press release. And this is exactly the message that we just have to have in our back pocket and hammer home that, this is what, 900 plus new units, workforce housing units in the next 5 years. That's our plan. I think, are we still using if it's 1.8, whatever that number is per unit employee, we're 1,500 plus. And this is new housing for 1,500 plus employees in the next 5 years. And that the $50 million the town will invest in this to leverage over $300 million in development. And there has been a lot of questioning of what are we doing with our money in the last few months based on, everything with STR fees, et cetera. And so while we've always known that we're doing great things and working hard, this is the stuff that we can constantly point to.
Yeah, we're spending it quite well.
It's amazing how we can leverage it. I did look back over, since we started collecting sales tax in 2006, we've actually collected about $15 million worth of revenue going back to 2006, but we've invested over $72 million in projects. It's like the Alto Verde model where we just put 4 million in. They've got LIHTC, they've got conventional financing. They've got all this different stacks of revenue that make a project happen. So we've got 4 million in that one. And, we've got some sort of contribution in almost every one of these. I mean, some of these on our list, the obligations of Stan Miller, phase 1, phase 2, Berlin Placer, we bought units in advance to help make that happen. So it's the investment of our public funds that is really, I think, making these projects come to fruition. So just wanted to sort of hammer that message home. And that's kind of the bullet point number 2 is that, this is the number of units.
Before we get off this, this is great. I mean, this is super helpful. Could we add 2 columns to the investment plan, the pipeline? And one being income cap.
Oh, okay.
And hopefully a lot of not applicables will be in that column. And the other being rent cap.
Okay.
So that we can kind of get a sense of, these are 40 to 60 rent cap, and these are 80% average, and these are 120s, and because we do need a variety. And that way we can see big picture all on one page. And
I was also going to add a column for rental or for sale, because of the 600 new units that are going to come online as a result of new construction, 384 of those are rental and 218 are for sale.
Yeah.
So it's a variety of rental and for sale that's coming online.
And I think keeping an eye from that conversation earlier today, keeping an eye on what effect that has, having the income cap, if we are having trouble filling those, and if people, make too much money for them, and what that looks like, because this stuff needs to be effective, right? to put all these resources in it and do such a great job, and then have an issue with the last step, I think.
Well, diversity of our housing product is super important, and we can't focus just on high tech, low income. We've got to focus on the missing middle. And that's one thing that's been super unique about the housing program from the very beginning is the diversity of our housing price points and our housing types, because our workforce is very diverse. But anyway, so that was basically the second bullet, is just kind of an overview of the projected number of units and how our investment of our revenue is going to leverage the development of over $320 million worth of housing units that are coming online. So we got into number 3 a little bit, which was about the importance of preservation of units as well. We can't build our way out of this. If 600 of the units that are going to come online are new construction, then the balance are existing units. So we can use, buy downs, we can use housing helps, we can use lease to locals. And we're recommending that we continue and expand those programs. As I mentioned, I think we're going to try to do twice as many housing helps every year and 3 times as many buy downs every year, because preservation is, given that we can't build our way out of this, is super important. It preserves neighborhoods, and it's a lot more cost effective if we can preserve a unit as opposed to build a new unit. So
Lori, there's another important part of that narrative, and that is that density to build your way out doesn't actually exist.
Right.
And if you were to build everything brand new, you would overburden the town to a greater extent than we're already at. So that's why the buy down program is so important, because you're not eating up
density,
unbuilt density, yet you're utilizing density that's already been built. And that, I think that's a really key part of the narrative for anybody that understands.
It's not so much stating we can't build our way out as it is about talking about the need to have a balanced approach.
Yeah.
To this, because of those things. I mean, it's going to be difficult enough if you have 600 new units to know where are we putting 600 more mailboxes, right? And I mean, that's a real issue.
Yeah.
That is an issue.
And if it was 900, it'd be a bigger issue.
Well, increasing our population by 20% or whatever, plus whoever moves here does not fall under this category. I think it does make sense to say that this is not all new people either.
The post office has flat out said they will not deliver to cluster boxes.
Yeah.
To what box? Cluster boxes?
yeah, I agree in the marketing. That's important to note. The preservations is sort of reshuffling the units that are already here. So, go ahead.
A lot more focus with being more aggressive with preserving existing housing stock. And I love the idea of expanding into housing helps for ADUs. I think.
Good. Yeah. So we started to get into the deed restriction light, the value of deed restriction light. I think if it's been only a no short-term rental, 10%, maybe it might not, if we don't see a lot of them coming in, maybe we consider increasing it. There are probably not that many out there that only have that no short-term rental restriction. As soon as we get everything into our air table, we'll be able to sort it and go, here they are. We could do outreach to them too. The deed restriction light. So that's a deed restriction that is just, you need to be working in the community for a business located in and serving. So no remote, but it doesn't have an appreciation cap. And those are the ones that we're doing a lot through our housing helps. I will say through our buy downs, we are putting a cap on the resale price. When we buy a unit down, we resell it at that reduced price. There's an appreciation cap going forward because they could flip it the next day and be in great shape. So we are putting appreciation caps on the for sale product.
Taking a
on the
little
buy
bit
downs.
more off the price because of that. So we're
Exactly.
making it a little more affordable for somebody too.
Just with buy downs, not with housing help.
Right. With housing helps, we don't have an appreciation cap associated at the 15 to 20% cost. If we're going to pay more for a full deed restriction that has an appreciation cap or a rental cap, that's going to be the 20 to 25%.
And we would do that for housing helps. We
Yeah.
talked about that. If somebody was willing to put all that thing on there, they'd get more money. So.
And we left ourselves a little bit of flexibility up to 30% if it's highly desirable in town location, a unit that we don't have a lot of. Maybe, it's kind of interesting to see what we're deed restricting through housing helps versus buy downs. Housing helps tends to be bigger units, family units, 3-bedroom homes, single-family homes. A lot of those are in housing helps. Buy downs, we're getting a lot of the 1 and 2 bedroom condos and stuff. So different housing types sort of come along with the different programs. And then we do want to re-up the lease to locals, at least through 2022. We think that was a great pilot program and it expires April 20th or something like that. So we want to re-up with landing locals to continue that pilot program. They're going to be adding a lot of additional components to lease to locals in terms of outreach, in terms of perhaps doing the master leases, including those. And they're actually going to be able to create that clearinghouse that we always talked about placing tenants with landlords. So this will provide a place for us to say, if you're looking for housing, go to this website and get your information in, and they will try to pair you with available rentals. So that's going to be a big addition to lease to locals.
Did the county commit? I'm sorry, did the county commit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're fully on board with lease to locals.
And are we keeping doing the lease to locals like incentives? 5, 10, and 20,000.
Yeah, when we launched the program initially, there were some really super high incentives.
Yeah.
That was that first, 20 days. We're going to go back to the normal tier now for the program.
Do you know what that is off the top of your head?
They're still fairly high, but it dropped $2,000 to $4,000 for each category kind of thing. So I think it still goes up to about $20,000 is the highest would be your 3-bedroom, 12-month.
I'm a little baffled by this because we've capped the short-term rentals, so they're not getting a license. Well, I guess they may have preserved their license.
Or they certainly had the right to. Yeah, this is trying to pull them out of that market.
But so we're paying $20,000 a year for 1 year for these units, but then we're so stingy to the 10% on the.
Oh my God, are you going back to that?
I am.
I thought we already agreed that we were gonna see what happened.
Oh, okay. I won't go all the way back. How about I won't go all the way back? I'll stay on this page and I'll just say full deed restriction light. I don't think we should say 20 to 25, maybe 30. I think go for that 30. If it's go for it.
Full deed restriction with appreciation
With a
cap.
cap on appreciation.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with
That's a very meaningful restriction there.
Yeah, it's
We
better than that
we
dead
cannot-
horse you've been beating.
The voice.
Hey, Laurie, sorry to interrupt, but you know what I would like, and we have all these programs, housing help, landing locals, buy downs, all that stuff. I'd like to have a one sheet of everything we have done and everything that's online, anywhere from rentals to private-public partnerships to everything, just to have kind of like a bragging sheet about what has been brought to the table in the last X amount of years.
We need a book to do our bragging sheet with 1 page. How can we do that? But no, I understand 100%. And Austin and I talk about this all the time. How are we going to get this information out? How are we going to do, press releases, targeted social media, 1-pagers, whether they're paper or some link to our website. There's a lot of conversations about how we get this information out, about what we've done and what we're doing. I agree 100%. I think on my list of things is, all of the marketing and outreach that we intend to do. So we hear you.
Voice from the sky.
Lori, at some point, I know the price is constantly changing with the market, but just have bullets like housing helps on average, 1-bedroom cost us X,
Okay.
buy downs, new construction. I know those numbers are pretty fluid, but just decision-making, it helps to have that information.
Well, everybody wants those 1-pagers for multiple reasons. People want to give them to their employees so that they know where to go. We need our website to be really easy to maneuver and understand. And we need, regular social media out there, and we need stuff in the paper that makes people aware of our programs. I mean, the goal of upping our marketing is to increase the participation in housing helps. Let realtors know we want buy down. So we have a lot of different target audiences that we want to reach.
And Carol, the town of Breck housing.com website does have that information, and Austin is updating that every single month so that it is a current number for each of those
That's a-
programs. That is the best place to send somebody that's asking those questions. And that obviously can be translated into something more what Jeffrey's talking about.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Good site. And while we're on this one pager subject, I mean, I view it being a one pager with summarize as best you can, and then a QR code at the bottom that goes to the website. And, but that way employers could hang it on the board. It should be in Spanish and in English, and the QR code for the Spanish one should go to the Spanish version of the website. And, employers can hang them in their workplace. We could, we could do a poster hang. I know that's old school, but we could do a poster hanging campaign around town, do some of them on hard stock. And because, that's where some people get their information, the grocery store and the laundromat and all this stuff.
But Rick touched on it earlier. I think it'd be good for the voters to know where we're spending the money and how much money has been spent, and the fruition that's come from those funds. So, yeah, I just think, I think when you put everything in the same basket and, and tabulate it, it's fairly impressive. And I just think a lot of it can be confused because there's so many entities doing the same thing. But when you make it cumulative, I don't know, I think it'd be handy to have.
Yeah, I think it needs to be easy to absorb and see, like some visuals, some graphics, some infographics, because people just don't read a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out.
Cool.
Got our marching orders for sure.
Kind of circling back to landing locals, to your point, Kelly, I agree with you that it's a lot of money. The incentives are a lot of money, but I also think this is a program that is front loaded in my mind. We're only contracting for it 1 year at a time. And it is trying to get current short-term rental people to understand the benefits of long-term renting. So yes, we're probably overpaying now. I see those numbers scaling back over time. And
Overpaying. I just want to overpay on the other side too.
And it's pretty interesting, at least the locals, what we're seeing is people that upped for that first year are deciding to keep it going.
That's good.
So that's what we were hoping. And so, yeah, well, they might have signed up for a 6 month and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do 6 more months. So it's super good.
Well, it's just to get us out of this problem right now.
Some of these units come online.
Right. Once these units come online, we can ease off
Okay.
that program.
Is there,
We're going to see with tax bills coming up, I think more people will sign up.
I think so too. As long as we are out there with our marketing that, hey, did you get your tax bill? Here's an option.
We should send
we
it out with the
really
tax bill.
need to, yeah.
Yeah.
We could stamp on the outside of
Huge
the
assessment
For
year.
sure.
Yeah.
lease to locals, is there a list of locals waiting for leases or looking for leases? How is
Now
that?
they're going to be implementing that in the second phase. We basically have gone through two phases of lease to locals, really our first launch and then getting it through April. And now if we commit to them to go through December, then they're going to bring on the clearinghouse for tenants and landlords. So that'll be part of this third wave of.
And they have been collecting that information. So on the on the Lease Locals website, there is an ability to put a renter profile on there in preparation for this. We knew we wanted to do that. We just couldn't do that in the short period of time that we had to implement the beginning of the program. So they've already been collecting that data. So it's exciting that they could extend that. And then the missing piece is really then matching the tenant with a homeowner. So
Cool. Thank you.
So number 4, hopefully you all, see if we can scroll just down. Hopefully you read through the entire plan because it's divided into, new construction, and then is preservation of existing units. Then there's policies, and there's a lot of policies we're going to be working on. But one that I wanted to talk to you about possibly considering is a no net loss policy. A lot of communities have that. If you're doing a redevelopment and the housing has traditionally served workforce, when you go to redevelop, there should be some disincentive to eliminate all those units. So we'd need to evaluate what other communities are doing around no net loss. And I think it should be in our code. So that's just one of the policies
like
that we're
that.
talking about looking into.
Yeah.
I'm hugely supportive of that.
touch on that mobile home
The
aspect.
next one is a bigger one. The next one is the moving forward with plan for block 11 and Stilson. And we can go further. Yeah, so this is the block 11 property. And this is the area that I think is surface parking, probably state parking in some way or other. That's the parcel we got from the school district. But this is our housing site. This is about 16 acres here. This is where the apartments are under construction right now. So we're recommending we move forward with at least a planning effort to figure out what balance of block 11 should be. We have utilities, deep utilities that go like this to Fraction Road. We put deep water and sewer in when we were going to do Breck 365. And so we're recommending putting out an RFP, looking for sort of a development plan that would lay out primarily single family units, duplexes, maybe ADUs. We anticipate maybe 75 units on here, kind of targeting a higher AMI. But that's our concept for how we move forward on block 11. We can move to the Stilson property because we also want to do an RFP for Stilson at the same time. What's really buildable out at Stilson is this sort of triangular area here. This is the stables. This is used by Public Works for miscellaneous uses. Everything within the green is kind of unbuildable. That's easements. Here's our solar panel. I think this worked out to about 9 acres here. So wanted to have a conversation with you because we'd like to issue an RFP for this as well and at least get a plan. We're thinking something that's compatible with the Lincoln Park. These are the 80% AMI triplexes, I think they are, but maybe triplexes, something like that that's compatible with the build out of Wellington is what we're thinking for that particular parcel. Now this property is currently used by Public Works for snow storage and for some other storage. So I think we need to work with James and figure out how much of that property could be freed up. Can some of that storage be put, under the power lines so that we could free up as much of that 9-acre parcel as possible? I think the committee talked about this and there was the issue of this provides some in-town snow storage right now. And that is nice. It's convenient. Is it possible to maybe relocate that out to McCain? So I think on block 11 in Stilson, we would like some feedback from the council in terms of the direction on both those parcels.
Feedback?
One comment I have is, we've talked about in committee, but if we're going to do single family homes, I think we need to make sure the road system and that it can handle ADUs.
For the block 11.
And we need to have
concept.
ADUs, so it's really two units within one.
Yeah.
And then, I like the idea of blending, duplex, triplex, single family with ADUs and really trying to maximize it, but make it livable, not, where it's a high quality livability, but, within that parameter is really maximize our opportunity for units.
This is super important. I mean, because we talked to a lot of people about our housing program and a lot of people actually say, why aren't you putting higher density there? And it's like, our program from the very get-go has been about building neighborhoods, providing a variety and diversity of housing types, and not necessarily maximizing density on every single site. I mean, some sites are more appropriate for a sort of lower density. I think the block 11 along the river at the entry to town shouldn't be built out at high density apartments.
Right.
And it is really, I think our program has been very successful in doing different projects on different properties.
Well, and I think I completely agree with Dick. And I think that there is something special about Wellington and Lincoln Park, that it does build community and it makes the density look a little bit different. I think with ADUs, it's a great addition to the community because you just have different types of housing altogether, and the ADUs really help families pay for their mortgage. And so I think that we hit a really nice stride in that community.
But this way we can have it designed with ADUs instead of forcing it in at the end.
Exactly.
But as far as snow storage, I mean, I'd love to hear from James. I can't see putting all the snow storage out on block 11. I mean, we still need it in town.
Yeah.
So there has to be some good way to divide that property up.
Or the question becomes, how many units can you just get where the stables is without taking that
Would be
much
what-
snow
right.
storage? And
And what-
maybe, you know,
With all of this, I want to make sure that we're really holistic and planning to the future. And I think block 11 and this is some of the last land we banked. So we have an opportunity to build whatever we want. So making sure that any proposal and the diversity of housing, that it matches with our housing needs. And we know our last assessment is so out of date pre-COVID and likely not capturing all of our community. We know the Summit School District has 30% Latino students, but that's not reflected in our census. So making sure that we're capturing what's truly the needs of our community.
Well, in this parcel, we could, if we're going to take a long-term look at it, what we could do is do something that's considered a phasing. Maybe there's a first phase that's
Right.
here, and it could accommodate a second phase if eventually the snow storage is consolidated somewhere or something like that.
We quit having snow.
Climate change.
Yeah.
seems to be getting there.
Well, there is that area that was supposed to be that area in the upper right-hand corner. Wasn't that supposed to
That's
be
set
something?
aside for a childcare center.
Yeah. We
Oh, that little one
need to
here,
figure
this
that
one.
out too.
Yellow
'cause
pond.
That needs to be on the radar.
Oh, this
Yeah,
one right
right
here.
there.
Yeah.
And over to the right of that too, right? Is that where the child?
I think this was the childcare center site right next to the duplexes as you come into Lincoln Park there.
And then what's the vacant?
That's a
land?
park.
Yeah,
That's the park
ridiculous
where the
little pond.
pond.
For the overlook.
Yeah.
Well, maybe what we'll do for this parcel is in our RFP note that it potentially is a phased project because we still have some uses there that we're not ready to relocate.
You might be able to, you know, even reconfigure the entrance to
Uh-huh.
this and have a more shared entrance that's, I don't even know what direction, but maybe to the south, to the north, to the south.
Yeah, down here.
So
So maybe the housing comes in here and then the sort of industrial uses come in here so that they're sort
Yeah.
of
Didn't we
separated.
talk about not putting snow storage right next to residential though? Isn't that an issue?
Yeah, it's not very compatible. I
Well-
mean, if we're gonna do that, can we go further to south or is that east? You know, further out French Coast to the end of Wellington and,
Yeah, to the
you
bus
know,
turnaround.
between Wellington and Country Boy.
listen, there's also on this property up in that, at the left edge of that triangle is where Public Works has a storage area that is just stuff. And the stuff could go somewhere else on it. I mean, it's crusher fines.
Right here?
Yeah, it's the upper, yeah, it's the upper air. That's it. No.
There's our
where you were.
panels.
Or where you were.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, it's down below too. It's
yeah,
that,
it's that
it's
whole
everything
area.
from that ridge over. So that's all, you know, there's crusher fines and there's wood chips and there's an old bus that's all beat up and there's a trailer and there's just park benches and trash cans and Bosex got their little whole
Bus,
garage.
that bus could be housing.
Well, that could be
So
cleaned up, then the snow storage could kind of go there. It might
Yes,
free up.
that's what
a
I'm
little bit
saying is
more of our-
that could be.
Get James anywhere to stick all this stuff.
You better speak up back there.
All right, we
James.
got the idea what's up there.
Though could go closer to a potential housing project and be screened easier because it's not
Loud.
snow storage. Well, it's just not as loud.
Oh, it's true. It's not as impactful.
Hey, Lori, you were talking earlier about the pond and the park in Wellington and that area to the north of that. Who owns that? Is that the town or is that Wellington?
That's, I think, private open space. I don't believe it's publicly owned.
All of it?
This parcel?
We can find out.
Yeah, we can find out.
That is, but the Wellington
Yeah.
HOA owns that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, I think we have some ideas for moving forward with an
Yeah,
RFP to at least start the planning effort on both of these sites.
Cool.
Let's see, land banking.
10 minutes.
Oh, okay, I'll go quick. Land banking, land banking has been one of our most effective strategies. If previous councils hadn't been land banking, we wouldn't be talking about any of these projects. So, but there's fewer opportunities now for land banking. So it came up at our last committee meeting, would we ever consider buying land outside of Summit County, Park County, where we could buy land cheaper, and who knows what the future holds.
I absolutely would. I think that's our future. It's not where we are today, but that's the future, I think.
We don't.
If we don't have land, we have no opportunities.
I know, but at some point, this community is gonna reach a point where we don't, that's as big as we can get. And that's as big as we should get.
Well,
I honestly don't like impacting other communities with our problems.
well, the land can be sold too, if that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, they may welcome it. It might be good for them.
I have a real problem buying land in other communities to put our housing on.
That gets us away from our workforce living in our community.
Which is one of the goals.
Well, and I mean, I feel like there's a compromise, you know, similar to how we treat open space as far as land, you know, looking for land that's adjacent or close to Breckenridge, maybe not over a pass or something like that.
So Frisco.
Well, I mean, but we don't buy open space in Frisco, you know, like Upper Blue Basin, if it's possible. I think that makes sense to me of, you know, so it's not a huge commute, but having housing in Blue River, I'd be open to.
So
It's not
in
as
Summit
good as
County, though.
Breckenridge, but
Yeah, in Summit County though, not in Park County.
no, I would say no passes for sure.
You know, we do get approached every once in a while about partnering with somebody on a Park County project. And in some ways, sometimes that probably makes sense. Especially if someday there's better transportation back and forth. Future might hold, so, but for now, I'm hearing we prefer not land banking
Well, that was
outside.
just two of us.
I'm with Dick. I think it's not, having it as an option. I don't think it's our first solution, but if there is a great opportunity at land bank, we can.
Okay.
keep our options open, but it's not my.
Okay, if it's a great
Jeffrey?
opportunity.
I don't think we should buy anything out of the county.
Oh, 3-4.
You win.
Dennis, you're the.
Wait, did Dennis say anything?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not in favor of it because we're moving our workforce out of the community.
Other
Oh,
way.
so it depends on what you say.
Oh, I don't even like buying it out of our immediate
Oh,
vicinity.
so then it's
And
43.
we've already had discussions with,
Somewhere else.
listen, we,
It's not gonna go down in value.
They're not making any more of it.
during the last joint Upper Blue, part of the deal with Blue River was they didn't want to be a bedroom community for Breckenridge. I mean, that was a huge discussion point during the last joint Upper Blue.
But they prefer being one for Denver.
Yeah, you know what, Dick? I have no idea. I mean, it was a really big deal for them to get to sign on that plan. If we took it out of their code, that you were allowed to mitigate employee housing in Breck out in Blue River. That was a huge deal for them to get them on board to sign.
Times changed. So. Well, who knows? I can't speak for them.
Go talk to Toby about it.
Well, it sounds like for now, there's not a lot of support. If an opportunity came up, we'd probably bring it to you.
Okay.
See what you think.
Over there.
Number 7, just wanted you to be aware of the, you know, how much we are going to be increasing our monitoring to ensure compliance. And we've almost got all of our units now on our database so we can sort and track, and it's really going to be a big help. And we're going to continue to work with the Housing Authority, at least for this year. They have upped their program. We've got a new audit process. So I think we're going to see a lot more compliance, a lot more just interaction with our owners. Creating that communication will be super important. Yep, super important. And then a lot of other, well, Aspen in particular really has a heavy hand in the resale process, and we don't. There's a lot of abuse that potentially occurs between a private buyer and a private seller when the town's not involved in that transaction. And, you know, we could move towards what Aspen does, where you don't get to pick your buyer. You have to sell it to the next person on the list, or they're all lotteries. I think it could, I mean, ultimately we may need to go that way. So I think we want to continue to see how it goes in Aspen. It would drive, it would we have to increase our budget to cover costs associated with adding all this additional resale activity. But it's something to keep on our radar as a direction we may need to go someday.
Is there a hybrid model that we can still
Yeah.
figure out some way
Yeah.
to
I think we'd have to.
think about selling a couch for 30 grand?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pick a buyer is just not.
Oh,
For sale project, whether it's on block 11 or Stilson, I think we should have something in the deed restriction that requires the sale process be a process that's approved by the town of Breck. And that might be us monitoring it, it might be a lottery.
Well, allow us to audit anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
I
can
think
think
there's
about the
an
language
equity.
in our next for sale development.
I like that, Lori. As the next step is, interim, like Eric said.
Yeah.
need it.
Council, we think we should review and meet with you more regularly, maybe twice a year. Now that we have some good targets and
Yeah.
some goals set, that we can come back and show you progress made. And then, everything we do requires collaboration, especially with the county. Having housing helps and buy downs shared with them has really reduced the cost of our programs, and doing the Justice Center together is good, but we still all are acting pretty independently. I'm doing my housing plan, and Frisco's doing one, and Silverthorne's doing one. I think really there should be a blueprint countywide that talks about all of the projects and the programs that are countywide programs. So that was the 10th item on here.
well, that's similar to what we talked about with transit. It's like all those things that are overlapping really do benefit from.
Countywide.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a countywide, organization, but just getting together and having these discussions so that everybody can teamwork when it makes sense.
Thank you for your input. So if you scroll down to the next couple of pages, hopefully you all read through the right-hand column, because it just is an overview of everything that we're working on. And the ones in red were the ones I asked you about. But that certainly doesn't mean that's everything we're doing. There's a lot of policies we're looking at. There's a lot of programs we're implementing, and just wanted everybody to see our plan in terms of what we're doing and what our expectations and goals are.
Work.
I would add on here that this is very ambitious, but I think it's doable. And Lori and I have had lots of conversations, and I've committed to Lori that I will give her the resources that she needs to do this. And that, we have, because it's a lot, but we can also, we're going to hold ourselves accountable to try to achieve these things over the next 5 years. And I think that we have a responsibility. We're collecting these fees to do this stuff and do it now. And we have to stay 2 years ahead of everything.
Right.
This is a great pace. It's adding 200 units a year. It's awesome. And well said, Rick. It's a tremendous amount of work. Appreciate it.
Lori, it's a great 5-year blueprint. I'm totally in favor. Thank you.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input.
Jeffrey, anything?
No, I just want to compliment the housing committee.
Housing committee.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, thanks.
We have Alta Verde Town Council hearing packet. I don't think we need a ton of prep on this, since we'll see it tonight. Any questions for Chris? No. Okay, we'll just get it tonight, Chris. Thank you. Oh, awesome.
Even better.
Even better.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, congestion management data discussion.
Shannon put in front of you.
Yeah.
So we had a staff meeting today, and we started looking at the dynamics of what's going on. From number one, we said, what are the different data points that we want to collect out there to try to understand, stuff. We also looked at who are stakeholders we need to engage, because we're collecting information. And part of this is this question of why are we seeing, why are we experiencing, why is this happening? If the problem is, are we seeing more congestion? why is that perception out there? Because we'll see if the data supports that. Or are there other things, other dynamics going on? And so we have to we want to keep thinking about that as we start to work through these strategies. And so what I don't want you to really focus on right now is trying to come up with solutions to this, but think about, is there something that you want to know when we do have this, start to have this discussion? Is there something that you want to know that you don't see on this list somewhere?
I'm
And
really,
when we're talking about, I'm sorry, apologize.
Good.
When we talk about the parking data, that's, we can look at it from a pay perspective on revenues generated and from occupancies, which we track anyways, right? But we analyze, are we seeing, what percent occupancy are we seeing within certain areas? So the cell phone is the stuff that we need to probe a little more from BTO, right? They've been doing this, we know, for what, maybe 3
years now? Yeah.
But what all can we get out of that? We don't know yet, but we see them as a partner. Lodging is pretty self-explanatory, but we know there's a number of different surveys that BTO does. And so just, let's see what's out there and what, if any of that will be helpful, because, one interesting thing we were looking at is where this perception of capacity, overcapacity and capacity issues, is it not necessarily coming from a tourism-based experience, but more driven by locals?
Right.
What do you mean by that, Rick?
and go ahead.
Well, it's an observation that we discussed, because I'm not aware that we're getting a lot of feedback from our guest.
Oh, so you're saying the perception of overcrowding or congestion is felt by locals opposed to guests.
Yeah.
So was the NPS score not visitors?
That one part where they talked about it. Yeah.
Where that deep dive?
I think that's part of what we can analyze in here. don't we?
I think both are very important to us. Why the local is feeling like it's overcrowded, and if the NPS drop is connected to feeling overcrowded, why that is by the visitor as well.
I also think in the last survey, the BTO did 2017 or 2018. I think they used NPS score, although that was local people, they also used the NPS score for that. So I think there's some data from the BTO that could be very helpful and from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, and we could see, because there was a very comprehensive look.
Yep.
And maybe to do that again to see how that compares, because you're right, Shannon, that was a really great, that's a really great data point.
I'd like to see some data on housing, how it's where we are right now. Our different types, our workforce units, our short-term rentals, our lodges, our fractional ownership, and kind of see how that mix is, and if there's any way to go back a couple, 3 years or whatever and see how it's changed.
You're looking for, just to understand, a breakdown of types of units or
Yeah.
types of uses?
Yeah, and in a little more detail than the previous that just compared workforce and other vacation, where we actually, and where I'm getting at is all of these have different occupancy percentages. And so I want to kind of see the distinction between the different types of housing or short-term rental licenses with the different traditional occupancy ranges, and see if that's caused some, because we're hearing that a lot from our community, so.
It was discussed even in ours, if under that Y column, is it the types of development we're seeing?
Yeah. I'd also like to see a few, a few more traffic counters like Ski Hill Road. Maybe go heading out French Gulch past the Wellington neighborhood, so not residents, but recreational people going out there to recreate. So
It's definitely more crowded out there.
absolutely, yeah.
We had traffic, it didn't make the list, but we are looking at traffic data.
Okay,
Um,
but yeah, and I would
but
just
it's
add
more
a
of our
few more
traditional
counters.
data,
Yeah.
Eisenhower to Highway 9. You know, how do we expand that?
Yep.
I'll tell you, one of the best data points is going to be that sand district data.
Yeah.
Flushes are that's the one you can't
Yeah.
get away from. The
Absolutely.
other ones all have too much variability in them.
Do we
That's the
have
one that'll-
historical on that, Eric? Can we
You know,
get?
Andy does. They have data that, and I think they'd be willing to share with us. I think that's the critical data, because the other stuff is all,
Agreed.
you don't know who drove up for the
But it tells you
day.
how many people are in town.
That tells you exactly how many people are in town and what your increases are.
But I think perception is also, I mean, I definitely agree, but I think matching that with some of the qualitative surveys, and because perception is reality at
Right,
the end of
but
the day.
I think the
But yeah,
perception piece
I
you can
agree.
mitigate. If we find, if you find,
Right.
and I'm not saying this is the case, but if you were to find that skier visits on these big days are no bigger than they've been, and Sand District data is no bigger than it's been, then, and traffic counts are no bigger than they've been, then the problem is a management problem. That means everybody that's coming to town is going to the gondola. That's why the line goes to Subway. So there's a management issue that we need to partner with the stakeholders to solve the management piece. Now, if you find out that, and the skier data is the one that's hard to get, because they're not very forthcoming with that data because it's a publicly traded company or whatever the reason is. But that's the piece that if you find out that their on-mountain experience is getting worse because they're overcrowding, that's a sign that something needs to change there. That either the Epic Pass is too inexpensive, or, you know, I don't know. I don't know what conclusion we'll draw there, but I think with some of this data, we can really, we can figure out some solutions and some management solutions.
You know, I think going forward, and then again, it's like driving a ship, you know, you turn it and it takes a while to respond. But when you look back at a lot of some of these ski area expansions, not just Breckenridge, but all over the state, they say they're expanding to spread out the crowd, but that expansion creates more crowds. So it not only does it not mitigate the perceived and real impact of overcrowding, but it also encourages more bodies to come to that particular area. Now, I don't know, we have, I don't know how much control we have over that, but it's something that we can translate into our own world as far as expansions and development. You know, employee housing creates crowding.
Can we do gondola counts?
I don't,
I mean, they
can
wouldn't,
ask, I'm not sure.
No.
they wouldn't tell us the number of people walking
Even though,
through the tunnel under Park Avenue.
even,
She told me it's considerably more, but they won't tell us how many.
but even though the gondola is like a partnership with us and all that.
I know, but it all has to do with the more
Already gave
people
them
that
that.
use it, the more it's tied to usage.
13 million or so.
You know, the Epic Pass is a big thing too. I mean, they've sold so many more this year that kind of creates.
No, and then, you know, there was blackout this past weekend, right?
Yeah.
Dale Beaver Creek.
Yeah, but not Breck.
No, but that's what Rick's saying. There's blackouts other places.
Which pushes
People
them
that wanted
to
to
us,
go,
yeah.
didn't go there, they came here.
I mean, we had one weekend that was super busy, that was snow sculpture. Everybody blamed it on snow sculpture until the next weekend that was just as busy with no event. So what's the nexus? What's
Eric
happening?
and I have a meeting, we're meeting with Jody and Bill Rock Monday. And we're gonna let them know that we're having this conversation, we're looking at this, and we really want them to work with us.
I would also touch on our 5-year housing plan and just throw it out there for discussion. Where could you guys plug into this? How could we work together? How could we do it
We
jointly?
met with Bill Rock. We have mentioned housing to him. So
Maybe childcare as well, because they have a facility up there that is for tourists only.
Any other data things?
Yes. I think if we get as much data as possible from Breck Ski Resort, that can absolutely inform our decisions. But some of our other big partners, City Market, the other grocery store in town, like if they have any data or trends they could share with us, I think that could help really nail down some of the experiences full-time residents are struggling with. They can't get a dentist appointment. They can't get their dog to see the vet. I don't know if there's a way to capture that, but maybe that's some qualitative data to seeing how our basic services are doing in this community.
Well, let's think about that.
I've heard a lot of complaints too about like not getting reservations at restaurants and things like that. And again, I know that these are all very soft and very,
No, but
sounds like privileged problems, but at the same time, if locals can't eat, I feel like overall,
But is it?
people are feeling like they don't fit in our community anymore. And I think that's what's making it feel like it's
And we
overcrowded.
have to keep that in mind, but also really, and again, is that, why is that? And is this staffing and, just product availability being blamed on other things too, that creates so a lack of staffing that you can't manage the same number of people. And the fact that you go into a grocery store here and an aisle is bare, we blame it on people here buying everything, but that same aisle is bare in Denver because they just, they can't get product.
Nick, what's your reservation situation at the Hearthstone compared to even 2020? This was normal 2020 right now.
The Hearthstone, we're pretty well staffed and we're tremendously busier.
We are.
And a lot of the growth, honestly, Eric, is early week, is Monday through Wednesday. We've actually reduced our head counts during the peak nights on the weekends, just from a quality standpoint. And, but we've seen large increases early week.
Yeah, we have too, and we're the same. We are.
Yeah.
But that's the only time we could grow, so.
But I feel like this all adds up. And I do.
That does.
I think it is from, I think it is from understaffing, but is that because of overcrowding? Is that?
We're not understaffed and
correlation.
we're crushed.
Yeah, and there's that too.
So-
Yeah. And so, and I think that, we're working on housing, which is wonderful, but I think part of this, I've also heard anecdotally from that people are also leaving because they can no longer enjoy the reasons why they came to Breckenridge and enjoy the community the way that they, if they're just working all the time, like money is okay. They have a place to live, but some people are still leaving because they're not able to enjoy the community the way that they had planned to, which I know again is soft, but it's
I've
part
heard
of the
that
decision
way
making.
more than I would like to.
Yeah.
I want to get data that supports that we are in fact seeing these additional people.
Also, I'd like to, it's happening everywhere. You go to Moab, Sedona, Telluride. I mean, I just think the COVID thing has changed things. The fact that there's people, there's a kind of compression of places you can visit because people, they didn't go to Europe. They don't want to fly. So they go to places they can drive. And we have a bed base really close that people can drive to us from there. So I don't know, man. I think it's some of this stuff, I think we should look at it, but a lot of it is just kind of an anomaly of the times that might or might not get better. But I think that certainly has to be factored in when we try to reach a conclusion about what we can do about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeffrey, but I think this is super important data, because if we're gonna embark on some kind of management approach to try to mitigate, we need data to know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
We don't.
Be at CAST next week, and Eric's going to raise the issue with the other people at CAST and say, look, I'm sure, we are not experiencing this alone. We know the Park City has experienced it.
Yep.
Others are to different degrees. And so who wants to work together?
Well, and I think we still need to try, like, even if that's the case,
No, I
I
agree
think
too.
for our community and for our locals, we need, we
Every,
need to try.
it's not a single silver bullet.
Yeah.
and different strategies will, if it's 2 or 3% reduction here, it adds up. If you know, we're not going to eliminate, but we need, if we're looking to reduce the impacts, to shift, to move people, change patterns, those are all strategies. I think the more we understand the data, the more we look at multiple strategies that are going to try to move people and create a better experience for all.
You don't build a church for Easter Sunday, but every weekend is starting to feel like Easter Sunday. So it will come down to management, but I think that travelers right now are ripe for them to be re-educated on how we expect them to come into town,
And that's part of it. It's got to be that management.
it's gonna be
I mean,
management, yep.
The thing we always say now is Monday and Tuesday are the new Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday are the new Friday, and Friday and Saturday didn't exist before, and Sunday is now the new Saturday. I mean, that's just how it is. It's nothing like we've ever seen before. There is no soft day where you can catch your breath anymore.
That's
So what I don't want to do is, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do here in the look, and I don't want to, you know, we want to start trying to gather some data and working, but I don't want to wait till we're like done to start a discussion. And so we'll be looking at just creating some opportunity to start having some discussion and going through the data as we get it and work, because it's not a 1 or 2 meeting problem, right? This is starting a process, I think, for us to look and try to understand this and spend some time and work through it.
That Sand District data is going to be the I think most accurate and most critical.
Yeah.
And we could get it, I think, pretty easy.
And so we'll star that. There'll be some that we can just try to go prioritize. Ones like what Carol raised, you know, anecdotally we can do, but trying to measure that that's a challenge.
Is it too early to create a temporary advisory committee to start putting all these facts together to look at?
Our job. I think this is.
Yeah, I think
this is a council.
it falls on council.
I was just thinking they would bring it to us.
I think it's bigger
I
than
think
Breck,
this
too.
is too important. I think this is.
We need to sift through this data ourselves and not have a layer between. I mean, maybe when we get to a point, we say, okay, these are the things we need to implement now. How can we do that? You know, we have, you know, I mean, maybe this just informs that we need to spend more money on transit. You know, maybe that's going to be part of it, or we need to figure out a way to get people to the different bases at the ski area, and how can we work with the ski area to do that? So,
And I'm curious about some of the, you know, grassroots type efforts, like with the restaurant, seeing if, you know, how we talked about with the golf course, having like few reservations for locals, you know, like having, you know, maybe there's an option there with some
of us already
restaurants.
do that. I mean, a lot of us build that stuff in.
Don't say that out loud.
I'm sure Beckerman does. I mean, I know Dick does. I do. Guarantee you the Nelson boys have some thing that, you know, local comes in, or even a Denver local comes in.
But I don't know if locals know about that either, you know.
I'm into my place now.
We have quite a few of them now.
Some, right.
Touch base on this. So yeah, let's get, so we can get you guys a dinner. Let's hit the
Housing Authority annual meeting. Do we need to?
Close the council meeting and
Work session.
Work session is closed. I'm going to call to order the Town of Breckenridge Housing Authority for February 22, 2022. It is 6:12. Roll call, please.
Ms. Sade,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Cool,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
and Chair Mamula.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Any changes? No. Agenda stands as approved. Minutes. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
There is-
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Mhm.
Aye. Minutes have been approved as presented. Miscellaneous business, please see the staff memo. Lori, do you want to talk about any of these? Altaverdi 1, 2?
I think my
Pine Bluff?
memo outlines everything that's happened relative to the Housing Authority since our last meeting. So it includes an update on Alta Verde 1. The bonds were issued. update on Alta Verde 2. Obviously, we're going to be pursuing a similar process to utilize the Housing Authority's ability for property tax exemption in the Alta Verde 2 project. Wanted to let you all know that the Housing Authority has a small ownership interest also in the Pinewood Village new ownership entity, and that provides the property tax exemption for Pinewood 1. Nothing new other than just an update on those. And as we do every year, we would like the board to make a motion that basically it's spelled out on your agenda that all actions of officers, employees, and agents of the town of the Breckenridge Housing Authority taken since our last meeting are hereby ratified and approved. So if somebody would make a motion to that effect.
I'd like to make a motion that all actions of the officers, employees, and agents of the town of Breck Housing Authority taken since the last annual meeting of the authority on February 23rd, 2021 are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Jello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Ms. Sade,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Chair Mamula.
Yes. Anything else for the good of the order? Sure.
Long readings.
All right, lower conference room.
Are you guys gonna send food over or what?
No. Did you come over for this part?
No.
I think he's already in the conference room.
I'm afraid the honey badger will break my heart,
Badger will break your ribs.
break my ribs. Ah. Bye-bye. No, I gotta go back on at 7. I might take a shower though. Cool. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, why?
Everybody.
Earlier, I wouldn't have had to keep.
I did. I said,
No
I
one even
agreed with you.
Jeffrey.
Nobody was,
The mics are
nobody
on.
heard
Jeffrey,
me.
you look
mics are
like
on.
you're
But I
from the
was
Blair
saying
Witch
it.
Project.
You know, I just showered. Do you guys notice the difference?
Look good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's getting a little
You
chill
didn't
sitting
shower.
here.
Just, you missed curry shrimp for dinner tonight.
I hate curry, but Todd Rankin brought me a roll.
Oh. Was that worth a vote?
No, Ellen didn't even eat it. Ellen didn't give it to me. She ate it.
It was
And
a
the
delicious
brownie?
brownie.
No, but she just said neither one of them were good for me.
Told you.
So she ate them both.
All right, everybody ready? I'm going to call to order the town council regular meeting for Tuesday, 02/22/2022. Wow, I love that.
Tuesday.
At 7 PM. Roll call, please.
Ms. Sade. Here. Mr. Carlton,
Here.
Mr. Bergeron,
Here.
Ms. Owens,
Here.
Mr. Coon,
Here.
Ms. Jello,
Here.
Mayor Mamula.
Here. Council minutes of February 8th, 2022. Any questions? Corrections? Additions? Deletions?
It
Minutes
seemed that
stated
meeting
as
was a little bit
presented.
more disjointed than our other meetings in the past.
You know what, Jeffrey? It was weird not having you here to make motions.
Yeah, I know.
We've been Staring at each other for like 2 hours. Of approval of the agenda, Rick? No changes to the agenda, stands as presented. Communications to council, time for citizens' comments. 3-minute time limit. Stand up and tell us what you think. You two good-looking guys in the back got anything to say? Well, with that, the communications to council period is closed. We move on to second reading of council bills. Start with Council Bill number 5, Series 2022. This is an ordinance regulating exterior food and beverage areas.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. If approved this evening at second reading, this ordinance will change the town code to mitigate impacts created by exterior food and beverage service areas. The proposed code changes include a definition and review process for exterior food and beverage areas, creates a new policy 52, which lays out requirements for exterior food and beverage areas. Makes changes to policy 24R, social community, regarding employee generation, changes to off-street parking, and changes to the water PIF schedule, all which will be 50% of the indoor restaurant assessments. This would also modify the bistro and decorative lighting definitions found in the lighting chapter, and make modifications to allow for bistro light requirements to be downcast, put in place Kelvin temperature maximums and height maximums, as well as a time limit of 10 p.m. or half an hour after business close. And lastly, it also adds LED strip lighting to be allowed in town, and includes a wattage and height maximums. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Julia. Questions for staff? The public wish to comment on this second reading this evening? None. The public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move on second reading. We pass Council Bill number 5, Series 2022 on 2/22/22, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? No? Roll call, please.
Ms. Giello. Yes. Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes.
Ms. Owens. Ms. Sade.
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have the second reading of Council Bill number 6, Series 2022. This is an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of certain real property to the Colorado Department of Transportation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. James Phelps, Public Works for the record. This ordinance was originally presented on February 8th, and the second reading today, have been no changes to this ordinance since the first reading. This will authorize the town manager to convey the 6 parcels to Colorado Department of Transportation for the project of the roundabout project at Watson and Park Avenue.
Thank you, James. Any questions for James? No, anyone in the public wish to comment on the second reading of this bill? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
Second reading. I move we pass Council Bill number 6, Series 2022, the title which has been read into the record.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Ms. Sade.
Yes.
Ms. Giello.
Yes.
Ms. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn.
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a couple first readings. Council Bill number 7. Series 2022. This is an ordinance placing recently annexed Blue River Water District parcel in Land Use District 4. This is Blue River Water District parcel 0.402 acres. And we do have new versions of this that have been handed out by the town attorney.
This is the first reading of an ordinance to place this property into Land Use District 4. As was discussed at the work session this afternoon, initially we were recommending Land Use District 43, but after the work session, this was revised to place it in Land Use District 4, which is that buffer zone along Highway 9. This parcel was recently annexed, although the town acquired it many years ago and just never actually went through the process of annexing it. But we are required to place it in a land use district within 90 days of actually annexing it. So this will help. The assessors have been trying to get this parcel annexed for a long time because it creates 2 different sort of assessment districts in one parcel. So we recommend approving this ordinance on first reading.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions? Lori, is this for both, the one that got
No,
handed out? Or is this just
on the
for-
next one, we're going to pull that because we've already annexed that parcel into
Oh,
Land Use District 4.
Good, so we're just gonna do this one.
Yeah,
Great.
this is just this one. This is just the fire or the Blue River Water District parcel.
And on this, sorry. On the second one, I think you should make record by motion to kill it and
Okay.
yeah.
Great. So this is a different one than we started talking about.
You're on the water, just.
Okay, right, that is right. Okay, all right, never mind. Is there a motion?
Do you want a public comment or anything?
Anyone in the public wish to comment on that? Nobody's here, Jeffrey. You should see it. When you're not here. nobody
Yeah.
Shows up.
The apathy rises when I'm out of the room. On first reading, I move we pass Council Bill number 7, Series 2022 in the version that was handed out by the town attorney.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion other than how great Jeffrey is? Yeah, roll call,
So great.
please.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Ms. Sade, Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a second reading or first reading of Council Bill number 8, Series 2022. It's an ordinance changing land use district designation for the old fire station parcel, 0.518 acres, more or less. How do we?
I would just say motion to kill the bill.
Yeah. Or a lack of emotion, it'll die, right?
I would move to kill it.
Okay.
I move to kill Council Bill number 8, Series
Rather strong language,
2022.
kill.
There is a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Ms. Sade, Mayor Mamula.
Yes. All right, we have resolution number 5, Series 2022. This is a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Frisco pertaining to the Child Care Tuition Assistance Program.
Resolution authorizing the town to provide tuition assistance support to the town of Frisco. And the key elements of the intergovernmental agreement are outlined in your memo, but basically the town is agreeing to process the applications for the town of Frisco in return for compensation to cover our costs. I should note that before this is executed, we are requesting some minor modifications to the IGA to eliminate the indemnification clauses and to clarify a section in the scope of services regarding the changes they can make to the program without our approval. So we recommend approval of the resolution authorizing the execution of the documents with those changes.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions? So it's okay that we adopt this and then the IGA gets changed? Is that?
We've done that before with minor modifications, which I think
Yeah.
leaves it fit in there, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, anyone in the public wish to comment on this? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass resolution number 5, Series 2022, a resolution approving intergovernmental agreement with town of Frisco pertaining to the Child Care Tuition Assistance Program.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Ms. Owens, Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Sade,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Resolution number 6, Series 2022. This is a resolution making supplemental appropriations to the 2021 budget.
Mayor and council, you have before you a resolution that would allow us to appropriate about $9.4 million in revenues and $14.3 million in expenses to the 2021 budget. We're required to appropriate those expenses and revenues that weren't previously adopted in the 2021 budget. As you saw in the resolution, the manager certified that we do actually have the revenues in excess of those previously budgeted or previously appropriated in order to cover those expenses. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Shannon. Questions? No, anyone in the public wish to comment on the appropriations? Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
Move we pass resolution number 6, Series 2022, a resolution making supplemental appropriations to the 2021 town budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bergeron. Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Sade. Yes. Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have resolution number 7, Series 2022. This is a resolution making supplemental appropriations to the 2022 town budget.
Mayor and council, this is a resolution that is also for a supplemental appropriation, but this is for a $248,000 rollover of unused funds previously applied to the 2021 budget. They cover a plow truck for $240,000 and $8,000 in unused funds that we had previously budgeted for social equity. So we are asking to be able to roll those over, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No, anyone in the public wish to comment on this appropriation? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion, Jeffrey?
I move we pass resolution number 7, series 2022. A resolution making supplemental appropriations to the 2022 town budget.
Second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Sade. Yes. Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. All right, we have Breckenridge Mountain Metropolitan District Notice of Intent to Create Sub-District.
Mayor and council, this is a communication we received from the district of their intent to create a sub-district. Under state law, this doesn't require any further action by council. You all have been informed of the issue, and we've had follow-up questions and answers. During the work session, the lawyers for the district have committed to making sure that an adequate map is submitted to the town by March 4th. And so with that, I've scripted a motion. If you wanted to go ahead and make the motion, Kelly, if that's okay.
I will. Town council has reviewed the notice of intent to create a sub-district and the additional information provided by the district, and finds that the creation of the sub-district does not constitute a material modification of the original service plan. As such, I move that the council make a determination that there is no additional process required by the town.
Anyone want to second that?
I thought you would.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? No, roll call.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Coon,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Ms. Sade. Yes. Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have Planning Commission decisions for the 15th of February, 2022. Are there any call-ups this evening? Planning Commission decisions stand as presented. We have a town project public hearing for Alta Verde 2 workforce housing.
Evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name's Steffi Schreck. I'm a Planner 1. My first time here. This is exciting.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited. All right, so I'm here to present the Alta Verde 2 workforce housing project. I do have plans. I don't know if Chris Huberto can pull those up just so we can have them in front of us. But I'll keep going. So for the final site plan, this project contains the 4 apartment home buildings that are totaling 130,000 square feet, total of 172 units, 2 garage unit structures, and 3 trash enclosures. Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
The next page.
Hold on just a second. Let me
Oh.
share.
Thanks, Helen. Perfect. So the total parking on site is 274 spaces, and then there's 42 spaces in the shared P, which will be shared with the FERC, the nonprofit site. So just generally speaking, the site's well connected, multiple pedestrian bikeways. It includes a dog park, passive plaza, and gathering space kind of in the middle there, seating, planters, and nature play area. So this project is intended to be net zero with solar panels placed on roof elements and limited ground mount solar if needed. That's kind of on the lower part of the site plan there next to the existing solar field. And next slide, please, Helen. So for architecture and materials, the materials are cohesive with nearby developments and include darker colors and wood tones that fit well with the town. Both density and mass are significantly under allowed calculations. So total mass is 172,522 square feet. And then just one more slide, just some renderings. Oh, they're kind of small, sorry. So the overall height is 35 feet, which is 9 feet over the recommended height of 26 feet. There is a mix of roof lines and building sections that vary from 2 to 3 stories in order to break up the massing there.
So final design is consistent with the direction the council provided at your most recent work session. Just to briefly touch on, town engineering has been involved with grading, site design, and drainage, and will continue to be involved throughout the construction process. There's a drainage plan there just for your viewing. The Planning Commission has recommended that you approve this project with a passing score of +6. I am keeping this presentation brief, but there's detailed plans and information in your packet. And the applicant Gorman is available remotely. They might want to say a few words, but if not, they're available for questions, and staff is available for questions as well. Thanks.
Excellent.
Thank you.
It's like you've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Here.
Uh, All right. Any questions for Steffi? Do we want to have Gorman on? Is Kimball Krangle available?
It's Kimball Craig.
Kimball Krangle!
The whole reason.
Good day. Hi, Kimball Krangle with Gorman and Company, also Lindsay Newman with Norris, as well as with Gorman Architecture. You know, we'll keep it brief as well, just to keep the momentum of the session going. We're super and get, you know, our next steps are process and try to break ground here in July.
Hey, Kimball, we're losing you quite a bit.
Can you hear me at all?
Not really.
That was better.
No.
Yeah.
Give it up.
Maybe video off. I don't know if that helps sometimes with internet. She's allowed to.
Yeah.
It's winter break, so I know she's on vacation.
Oh, that's okay.
Is this better?
Oh, there you go. We can hear you now.
All right. So anyway, I was just thanking you profusely and saying we're really excited to start construction in July of this summer. So we would love to answer any questions you may have.
Kimball, thank you. Any questions? Great. Looks like the council doesn't have any questions. Jeffrey?
Not a question, but a warning. I'm going to be looking at really closely the landscape plan. I hope we have as much xeriscape and low water usage as possible. I don't want to have to depend on irrigation out there. I know it's buffalo grass mostly, but just FYI.
Oh, Jeffrey dropping the hammer from afar.
Well, that's because Kimball's not in the same room with me.
And
Scares
with
me.
that,
Oh, come on, Jeffrey. Noted. Yes, we do have a good net-term xeriscape plan in mind. We can go into detail
Nice.
on that. Otherwise, yeah, thank you.
all right, any other questions? No, is there a motion? Oh, first, anyone in the public wish to comment on that? No, there's nobody here. Public hearing's closed. Is there a motion?
Well, I don't know how,
It's on. the
I
first page.
move that the town project hearing at the Alta Verde Workforce Town 2 hearing packet go into effect.
Somebody want to make the motion that's in our packet?
I make a motion to approve Alta Verde 2 Workforce Housing PL 2021-0573 located on track A1 of the McCain subdivision, address to be determined with the attached findings and conditions.
That was a trick motion. I second it.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Sade, Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn, Mayor Mamula.
Yes. All right, we have the report of the town manager and staff. Rick?
Nothing.
Got nothing. All right, report of the mayor and council members. We have a cast meeting next week. Pretty excited. It's the big legislative one, so we'll bring you back some info from that one. Open space,
We have a meeting next week.
tourism, Mr. Kuhn,
I have nothing.
heritage,
Yes, I have something.
History.
I'm trying to find it.
oh, history.
Ask
What
me
do they
for a
call it
second.
now?
Breckenridge history.
You need to change that on this, so I don't screw it up again. Although I like the Heritage Alliance. Sounds like something from Star Wars.
The Secret Society.
So let's go to Breckenridge history. The good news. Finally have a majority of the French built signs reinstalled on the B&B and the mini mine trails. A few signs will need new posts, so that'll have to wait till summer. But I haven't seen them yet, but have you? Okay. Unfortunately, the Milne Park did not receive any grant dollars through the Colorado Revitalization Fund.
Why not?
They submitted a strong proposal that went to the final round, but they had a huge response, and the most of the projects that received grants checked more boxes than we did: housing, artist workspaces, commercial storefronts, that kind of thing, than the Milne project did. So small rural communities did quite well. The fund of 65 million was designated through the end of 22, and they've already blown through the entire amount. So we are going to resubmit.
Wow, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Dennis. Breckenridge history. How about Breckenridge? What do we change the creative arts to?
BCA.
BCA.
That's not an original.
BCA just, we just had a strategic planning retreat for the last half day yesterday, half day today, this morning. And yeah, I thought it was quite good. They had a consulting firm there that specialized in these type organizations and helping with some reorganization things there. They've recreated the board or restructured the board, shall we say. Did a lot of discussion around strategic planning, getting into development and fundraising. I think they've heard us loud and clear in some of the directions we want to go, and have some really exciting, some good direction that this staff has come up with. They've hired some new staff, which I thought were excellent. It's a good meeting. I thought I was really encouraged and enthused by it. So good.
Awesome.
I'm not giving a ton of detail because it's not to that point yet. I mean, it's still a very much a work in progress kind of. But Tamara went through the lineup of programming for the summer and is quite impressive.
Great.
So we're gonna see the BCA come alive again, which is great.
Cool.
Good.
Events,
We have not had a meeting.
childcare. We need to change the name of childcare. That's sort of boring.
We already talked about it.
Okay. Workforce housing. Anything to
Talked
add?
about it.
Social equity.
Yes, on Monday, we had a meeting. We welcomed two of our new commissioners, and they did a great job jumping in right away. We are starting to formalize the process in which the commission reviews what's coming up on council's agenda and see if they have any flags or questions. We did talk about childcare tuition assistance a little bit, something that the committee expressed interest on, just learning more, diving deeper and seeing what we can do to reach more of our residents. Otherwise, most of the meeting was Bill from the BTO joined us talking about their efforts in reaching various community members, and the commission could provide input. And we also asked him about different ways that we could work with the BTO on their initiatives, like One Breckenridge, different trainings that we can incorporate our work.
Yeah, it was a great,
Awesome.
Great interaction with Bill with BTO, I thought.
Yeah, they're doing a series of roundtables and surveys focused on minority and Hispanic populations. So it was really good information for us to have.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they're collecting some outstanding data in those. It's great.
Cool. All right. Other matters.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I sent you guys all an email, forwarded an email that I got about some of the Uber and Lyft pricing. And I don't know if we have any teeth in that. Someone wrote me that from town to Baldy, 2.5 miles, it's like $60 or $50 or something like that. And next night it was 30. And I don't know if we have any regulations on that at all, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Who regulates?
Well, they're not the same licensing as like taxis, right? But I
Yeah.
would go through, I mean, we've worked with Lyft before.
Yeah.
I think we need to, if we had more specifics, I think we can follow up on that kind of stuff, but it'd be nice to know who the vehicle that's doing it or something.
Yeah.
I'll follow up, Rick, and write the person again and ask her to, she sent me, I just asked her to send me a synopsis, but I'll ask for more detail.
Yeah, because they may pull that person if
Yeah.
they're, if they're trying to price gouge or something.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah. But I don't think we have, to my knowledge right now, we don't have a lot of enforcement, but
Yeah.
there could be something that's done. I don't know if it in the form of some type of theft, but we'd have to look carefully and understand the facts.
Yeah.
They do have demand pricing, and I think that's been an issue all
over the place.
over. And I think one of the things that they had to do was make sure people knew what the price was up front. But there was not a sort of a regulation on.
Supposed to show up on your phone when you.
Okay.
It'll tell you how much it's gonna be. Yeah.
And in this scenario, was it because the bus stopped running?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a weird demand thing, just because the bus isn't running,
Right.
as opposed to it's
Especially
busy. in
that
town.
late at night.
That shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It may not have anything to do with the bus. It may have been.
Perfect.
Right.
The night times are really.
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll.
We might have to send you undercover, Jeffrey. Other matters?
I have one, which is just an idea of, since we have all of these housing initiatives, housing is one of a few committees that we have that does not have citizen representation. And we just might want to consider it, considering, like Dick brought up to me a very specific scenario. And it's funny, after I talked with you about that, of like where there could be improvements. And I talked to two other people who live in the Wellington neighborhood who have very specific instances where some of the housing program might not fit. And it's very anecdotal, but I just wonder if having some citizen representation might dredge up some of these scenarios that just don't fit in our program, or it's not, their needs aren't being met in the right way, I guess. It's hard without talking about specifics, but like just different ways where there could be improvement that maybe our citizens see that we might not be seeing. Something to consider. Talking about that.
You guys can talk about it at the next housing meeting.
Oh, gotcha.
And there was another one where there are people who are essentially a growing family who are kind of stuck in a 2-bedroom and they're not able to move around, to move to a larger. And I just think right now housing is set up for AMIs for all good reason. I don't want to change that, but it's interesting how family size also matters, right? Like but yeah, anyway, it's a different conversation, but I feel like citizens might.
The story I shared with Aaron,
Yeah.
this was from a gentleman in Aspen who's been involved. He's a developer, but he is familiar with the housing for many, many years. And his comment was that he is aware of multiple people who are retired. They have a 3-bedroom deed restricted home that's got appreciation caps on it. They've owned for many years. They've been retired for many years. Their family's gone. It's one person living in a 3-bedroom, and they feel like they are captive to that unit because their resale price isn't enough. They don't get enough money to buy anything else, any market value housing to move out. And even if they wanted to get something smaller, and again, Aspen's market's different than ours, but the comment this guy made, and I don't know if it's true or not, but he said they looked into trying to buy something in Salida, and the equity they had in that home after many years was not sufficient to get something in Salida. So they felt a prisoner to their home, and you know, you get 2 or 3 of these, so you get 3 people and 9 bedrooms being used, 3 of them being used out of 9. So I don't know the answer, but it was an interesting comment.
And you can see how if the family size either grows or shrinks and they're not able to move to an appropriately sized home, there's some bumps. And I feel like, I don't know if you necessarily, like, sometimes you get these anecdotal stories, but I think that they're really important. Like, I mean, Wellington neighborhood, I feel like that could easily happen in the future where they don't want to leave their neighborhood, or even if they wanted to, they couldn't downsize to a 2-bedroom. And some people who are in a 2-bedroom can't upsize to a 4-bedroom because maybe they got a raise or something and they just missed that. And so anyway, there's just a lot of stuff out there.
And it's, yeah, the
And we're not
answers are
gonna-
hard, but
Yeah.
the discussion's important, I think.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
something to think about.
All right. Other matters? I have one. I probably have a bunch more than one, but I just have one for tonight. I was contacted by a guy from a company called Ramble. They are a camping company. They do they're building a national campground chain. And he got in touch with me to see if we were interested in talking to them about doing a campground. They do sort of joint. I know we talked about it at one point a while ago, couldn't really find anything. And I can either tell him, yeah, why don't you come up this summer and look around, or no, we don't. We're trying to build housing right now. So what I'll do is I'll actually just forward this to you, to all of you. It's just a little letter about who they are and what they do. And then they have a website. The process of identifying their initial campground locations and landowner partners in Colorado. They're going to launch in the fall of 2021, 2022 and spring of 2023. So.
And so they would just look around and.
Yeah, if we had something that we were interested in, they do all the, it sounds like they do everything. You know, where we were talking about trying to lay this thing out ourselves and do all the work. That's sort of what they're doing. They're looking for partnership.
Then they run it.
No, well, I don't know. I think that's part of the thing is, I feel like they do, I feel like they do everything.
Yeah. They're probably just looking for some
good-
startup.
A good profit model there.
Yeah. No
Yeah,
kidding.
no, I'm sure it is. So anyway,
I would love to have a campground in this valley, other than Frisco, but I don't know how you get the dirt under it to make it profitable.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. They would, I mean, they
Would
would,
buy it.
no, I think we put the ground under them and they would,
They want us to be their partner.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they do it, so that, you know. But I will send this to all of you and you can look it over
Like
and,
to look at it.
yeah.
I mean, there are merits to consider, I think, and a campground can fill a short-term gap that you have and stuff. And, you know, we're putting people in campers in parking lots right now. You know, and so you can, if you have a designed area that holds that and has the right facilities that have showers and those types of things and outhouses, you know, can you create an experience? And if we had a location that could work, there could be some merits in looking at a partnership where we ensured a percentage of that was used for different types of, not just, you know, people in their Sprinter vans coming up from Denver and having a place to park them, but you know, it could fill a need on some stuff. So that's another big topic we're seeing out there amongst resort communities right now is, I mean, the market has just been flooded with vans, right? And I mean, they are just everywhere and they are just doing dispersed camping all over. And so,
They formalized there was a ton of dispersed camping in Crested Butte that they have since formalized and sort of cleaned up, and they're making money off it now. So it's cool camping.
But plus, not everybody can afford to rent a place when they come up here, especially the mountain bike community or.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think our challenge has always been, you know, we've looked at those areas, right? That is it something that we own as open space? Typically, it's a joint with the county and getting them, you know, will they look at anything differently?
Well, have a look at what I just sent you and that'll be that.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else this evening? All right. Jeffrey, anything?
No, good government.
It's great to see you, man. I'm glad you're doing better.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be better than ever.